Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Monsieur le greffier.
Monsieur le Sénateur Ghost,
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Farnham,
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Ferguson,
Présente.
Monsieur le Sénateur Lafondre,
Présent.
Madame le Sénateur Valois,
Present.
Madame le Sénateur Moore,
Present.
Monsieur le Sénateur Pallett,
Présent.
Monsieur le Sénateur Mezek,
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Hélier,
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Laurent, Madame le Connétable de Saint-Sauveur, Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade, Monsieur le Connétable de Grouville,
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité, Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre, Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie, Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Ouen,
Présent.
Madame le Connétable de Saint-Martin,
Présente.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Jean,
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Clément,
Présent.
Madame Deputy Martin, Monsieur le Deputy Southern, Madame Deputy de Grouville, Monsieur le Deputy Lewis,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Tadier, Monsieur le Deputy Higgins, Monsieur le Deputy Masson,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy Pennell,
Present.
Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Martin,
Présent. Doctor Who. Mine.
Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Ouen,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy Dublé,
Present.
Monsieur le Deputy Labby, Monsieur le Deputy Wickenden,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy de Sainte-Marie, Monsieur le Deputy Truscott,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Young,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Ash,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Morel,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Guida,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Pierre,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy de la Trinité,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy de Saint-Jean,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy de la Hegra,
Present.
Monsieur le Deputy Aye,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy Pershad, Monsieur le Deputy Ward,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy Alves, Monsieur le Deputy Pamplin, Madame la Deputy Gardner,
Present.
Monsieur le doyen.
Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait les cieux et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi le gouvernement et la puissance de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton saint nom. Nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, donner le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute leur délibération est tant accompagnée de ta bénédiction. Réussisse au bien et au soulagement du peuple qui te plus de commettre à le soin, car nous te prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant: Notre
Notre
Père,
Père,
qui est aux
aux
cieux,
cieux,
ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne,
Viens.
ta volonté soit faite sur la terre comme au ciel.
ciel.
Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous envoie pas en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal. Car à toi est le règne, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen.
Madame la Connétable de Saint-Laurent,
Present.
Madame la Connétable de Saint-Sauveur,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Brelade,
Présent.
Monsieur le Connétable de la Trinité,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Connétable de Saint-Pierre,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Connétable de Sainte-Marie,
Présent.
Madame la Deputy Martin,
Present.
Madame la Deputy de Grouville,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy Tadier.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Monsieur le Deputy Tadier est tellement disposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux tâches exposées sa santé. Monsieur le Deputy Higgins,
Présent.
Monsieur le Deputy Labbe,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy de Sainte-Marie,
Excusez.
Madame la Deputy Pershaw.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Madame la Deputy Pershaw est tellement disposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux tâches exposées sa santé. Madame la Deputy Alves,
Excusez.
Monsieur le Deputy Pamplin,
Sir, it's Deputy Morrell here. Deputy Pampton's returning from a medical appointment and will join the Assembly as soon as he can.
Well, I'll mark him excusez, and as soon as he's joined us back in, then he'll be marked as présent.
Absolutely.
Les États sont constitués. I don't think that we have the Lieutenant Governor with us this morning, this afternoon, I should rather say. There is nothing under a B or C. Under D, there are a large number of lodged propositions. Proposed Government Plan 2022 to 25, P90, First Amendment and Amendment to it, lodged by the Minister for Housing and Communities. There's then an amendment to the Second Amendment lodged by the Connétable St. Brelade, a Second Amendment to the Second Amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers, Sixth Amendment lodged by Deputy Ward, Seventh Amendment lodged by the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, an Eighth Amendment lodged by the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel, a Ninth Amendment lodged by the Health and Social Security Scrutiny Panel, a 10th Amendment lodged by Privileges and Procedures Committee, an amendment to the 10th Amendment lodged by the Minister for Infrastructure, an 11th Amendment lodged by Deputy Ward, a 12th Amendment lodged by Senator Mezek, a 13th Amendment lodged by the Connétable St. Martin, an amendment to the 13th Amendment lodged by the Minister for Home Affairs, a 14th Amendment lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services, a 15th Amendment lodged by the Health and Social Security Panel, an amendment to the 15th Amendment lodged by the same panel, a 16th Amendment lodged by the Children, Education and Home Affairs Scrutiny Panel, a 17th Amendment lodged by the same panel, an 18th Amendment lodged by the same panel, a 19th Amendment lodged by the same panel, an amendment to the 19th Amendment lodged by the same panel, a 20th Amendment lodged by the same panel, a 21st Amendment lodged by the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, an amendment to the 21st Amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers, a 22nd Amendment lodged by the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, an amendment to the 22nd Amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers, a 23rd Amendment lodged by Deputy Gardner, an amendment to the 23rd Amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers, an amendment to the 24th Amendment lodged by the Corporate Services Scrutiny Panel, a 25th Amendment lodged by Senator Gorst, a 26th Amendment lodged by the Connétable St. Brelade, An amendment to the 26th Amendment lodged by the Council of Ministers. A future ambulance fire and rescue headquarters commemorating the service of Connétable Len Norman, lodged by the Minister for Home Affairs. That's P103. A draft Financial Services Commission Amendment number 8, Jersey Law, lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services. P104. Draft Bank Recovery and Resolution Amendment of Law, Jersey Regulations. P105, lodged by the same Minister. Draft Bank Recovery and Resolution Commencement of Law, Jersey Act. P106, lodged by the same Minister. Draft Children and Young People Jersey Law, P107, lodged by the Minister for Children and Education. Draft Draft Companies Amendment number 8, Jersey Regulations, lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services, P108. Draft Proceeds of Crime Supervisory Bodies Amendment number 2, Jersey Law, lodged by the same Minister, P109. Draft Elections Transitional Provisions Jersey Regulations, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee, P110. Draft Elections Miscellaneous Amendments Commencement Jersey Act, lodged by the Privileges and Procedures Committee, P111. Draft Financial Services Amendment number 6, Investment Business Jersey Regulations, lodged by the Minister for External Relations and Financial Services, P112. Radiotherapy Unit in Jersey, lodged by Deputy Taddy, P113. Draft Official Controls, Animals, Food, Feed and Plant Health, etc. Jersey Regulations, P114, lodged by the Minister for the Environment. Reopening of Samaray Ward, lodged by Senator Pallett, P115. Common Population Policy, P116, lodged by the Council of Ministers. There is nothing under E, F, G, H. We come to questions. Answers to written questions have been lodged, and now we come to oral questions. And the first oral question is to be asked of the Minister for Social Security by the Connétable St Martin.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain how 394,000 constitutes the full value of a modest family home as defined within the long-term care scheme? And will she advise whether there are any plans to increase this figure to reflect current prices? And if so, where these plans are detailed in the government plan, or if they are not in the plan, what the financial consequences of increasing this figure will be? Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you, and I thank the Constable for a question. On page 169 of the government plan, I confirm that the Long-Term Care Fund will be subject to a formal actuarial review in 2022. This review will include consideration of the level of asset disregard included within the scheme and will examine financial consequences of setting the asset disregard at different levels.
Supplemental, Connétable.
Yes, thank you. So when they review the scheme, if the limit is to be raised in line with house prices, is it the intention of the Minister to index link these limits in the future?
Minister.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. The Constable is asking me to predict the outcome of the scheme of the review. The long-term care scheme is there so people don't sell all of their home and all of their assets at the moment, which they used to do before it was brought in. It has to have enough money coming in so it can cover the cost of care, and also then it has to be, you know, financially sound so that people can keep some of their assets. I have no idea where it will be pegged at, but as I say, that's for the review to tell us. Again, if more money people can keep or there's more money paying out, we will have to look at the scheme. And I was stopped by putting it up by percentage 2 government plans ago. I got 0.5%, but that's where we are.
Yes, Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that to help secure the long-term sustainability of the long-term care scheme, when setting this value at something more realistic, the way that that could be balanced out would be to raise the upper earnings cap on the long-term care tax.
Minister.
Again, this is all something that I hope will be looked at in the review next year. Is if everything was simple, we would all do it, collect money in. But that may be one of the ways to do it. But you've got to be very careful when you're trying to raise tax and make sure that people are still there that are paying it. Thank you.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, supplementary.
Is that the minister therefore confirming that this review being conducted next year will be looking at the upper earnings cap and whether that is placed at a suitable level to maintain the sustainability of the fund into the future?
Well, it's going to be an actuarial review, and then if we need to look at changing the house prices, changing the disregard, the money you can have in the bank, different payouts, I wouldn't rule out different things, but again, that's probably, this will be done, and then that's for the new Council of Ministers to decide on.
Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Given the considerable increase in house prices over recent years, why has the minister not sought to readdress this imbalance in simply this focused item rather than waiting a considerable period of time for a full review?
Well, I thought I'd answered that. There are not many people who actually take a loan out on their house, so we think at the moment it is sort of pegged at the right price, but it is going to be reviewed. Again, it's a very young fund, and when I went for 1%, so I was going to make it a much more stable fund, there was an amendment brought 2 government plans ago that stopped me doing that, which is 0.5%. So, you know, as I say, when you're paying out money and you're letting people have disregards, you have to have the money there to cover the scheme. I say it's 1,000 times better than before, where you lost your whole home. And lots of the people who have been in the Assembly a long time, especially constables, will remember that when it was under their jurisdiction and they had to, you know, the whole homes signed over. Sorry, I could hear an echo. Sorry, sir.
I'm sorry, I think that might have been me speaking over, and I apologise. Supplemental, yes, sir. Final supplementary question, Constable St Martin.
Thank you. I thank the Minister for her answers, and would ask the Minister, would she agree that 394,000 is a very unrealistic price for a family home at the moment, and that this review is long overdue? Thank you.
The figure was set, and if you add the disregard, it's 419. That's the 25,000 you can have in cash. It was set as a small, modest 2-bedroom house when the scheme was introduced. As I say, there's only ever been in the 1 year about 10 loans again. So there's all of it needs to be looked at. But with the house prices, I doubt if they'll ever be pegged at the price unless people want to pay into the scheme a lot more, and that's what I think. But let's wait for the actuarial review who's going to take all this into consideration. Thank you.
Well, we come to the second question. The Deputy Southern will ask the Minister for Treasury and Resources. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state what proportion of capital gains in Jersey arises from the sale of small businesses compared to that generated by the sale of second homes or shares, for example? And will she seek to introduce measures to ensure that the revenue generated for individuals who become so-called super gainers via business sales is captured in terms of income tax and social security contributions?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. The government does not collect data about capital gains arising in Jersey from any source. This is because Jersey does not tax capital gains. The taxation of revenue arising from increases in capital values would not be subject to income tax nor to social security contributions. Income tax is charged at 20% on income arising from property rental, regardless of how it is held. The government has no plans to introduce any form of capital gains tax. I hope this answers the questioner's question. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Yes, sir. Would the Minister not be better advised to actually rate capital gains tax at 0 and thereby find out how much is being squirreled away, avoiding income tax and social security contributions. Would that not be a useful piece of information that we could get from that sort of mechanism?
Thank you, sir. I'm advised it would be very difficult to construct a form of capital gains tax which was simply focused on small businesses deriving profits from property, or which targeted owners of second and holiday homes. With everything else going on at the moment, sir, it would be very difficult to conduct the review that the questioner is asking. Thank you.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Given the presumably immense amounts of wealth that are generated by these completely untaxed capital gains for a small number of people in our community, and the government's stated commitment to reduce income inequality, does the Minister not consider that conducting some sort of exercise to investigate how this is happening in our community and what gains are being made would be a worthwhile exercise?
Thank you, sir. I think, as the Senator and other questioner is aware, we are starting to do a massive stamp duty review, under which will be included some of the questions asked by the Senator. But I must point out that any capital gains tax would have a serious effect on the finance industry, which would have to be, of course, be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Supplemental, Senator? Very well, we come on to question 3. That Senator Mezek will ask for the Minister for Housing and Communities.
So does Deputy Southern not get a final supplementary?
Oh, I beg your pardon. Sooner Christmas comes, the better, arguably. Deputy Southern, final supplementary.
20 years here, still not recognised. Would the Minister not agree that it would be a useful thing to know how much wealth is being generated by these super gainers, in order that we could judge better the state of our economy, including capital gains set at 0%?
Thank you, sir, but I think I've already answered that question, and there is no intention whatsoever at the moment to introduce or examine or consult on the introduction of capital gains tax. Thank you.
Very well. We now come to question 3 that Senator Mezek will ask of the Minister for Housing and Communities. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Following the announcement that the former St Saviour's Hospital site will be allocated for future housing development, will the Minister state which housing provider, if any, has been identified to take on the development of the site, and what instructions have they been given on the proportion of affordable homes to be created as part of this development?
Minister.
Sir, it's Chief Minister in the absence of the Housing Minister, who unfortunately is not able to get back onto the island today, sir, for reasons completely beyond his control. So, sir, I'm sure States members be aware that given the size, location and scale of the St Saviour's former hospital site, as a housing development is going to be subject to a very comprehensive design and layout. And that's all going to be about creating a mixed development, both in terms of property type, size, tenure, and seeking to build a very strong, balanced and sustainable community. So it's a big site. There have been preliminary outline discussions with Andy Holmes, who have previously expressed an interest in the site. They are obviously very keen to progress with a suitable bespoke housing development, given the importance of that site. At this early stage in the process, it is estimated the site will accommodate as many as 200 units, and one would always hope they can achieve more. And the intent is that the vast majority will be social housing and assisted purchase properties, with the actual numbers determined as the design progresses. If I'm allowed to add a little bit more, sir, there are also a load of factors to take into account. So, for example, there is scope for key work accommodation. Very likely, given the size of the site, it would be a village-style development. And the other thing to take into account is that any renovations of the granite building there, which is obviously a grade 1 listed building, sir, will be very, very expensive. That will need to be taken into account. But, sir, there are very significant opportunities, and in particular, opportunities definitely to address social housing, assisted purchase schemes in a very significant manner, sir. Thank you.
Very much. Yes, supplemental, Senator Smith?
And thank you, sir. I'm extremely pleased to hear that answer from the Chief Minister, as it is exactly what I was calling for a year and a half ago to be done with this site. So can he just confirm beyond any doubt that the 15% target that is being applied to other state-owned sites has been put in the bin in the context of this particular development?
So, as I said, at this stage, it's intended that the vast majority will be the areas I've already identified.
Senator Moore, you say you have a question for me. Is that correct?
That is, sir. Yes. I wrote to you on behalf of the Scrutiny Liaison Committee to ask you to give a ruling.
Well, I think we should leave until at least the question is finished. I thought it might have been a point of order, so let's wait until this particular question has been dealt with, please. Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for noting me present. My question to the Chief Minister in respect to the area and the site of St Saviour's Hospital, which is currently still running its mental health services. What can he tell us about the due consideration that were needed for the entire area that services that part of health and community services?
Yes. So, do you mean, right? Apologies. You mean how is that site? How is the present use of the site going to be replaced effectively? So there are two areas. Number one is obviously, as we know, a full aspect of the mental health side will move up to Overdale under the new scheme. That's obviously, all caveated by planning permissions, etc. Secondly, sir, it is not inconceivable, given the size of the site, bear in mind which side of the road one's talking around, it is perfectly conceivable that health may wish to have a modern facility up there, for example, for dementia, as well as having the housing offering that we talked about. That's why we're saying it's very, very early days. The size of the site does warrant a whole range of uses, and therefore a very quite considered plan that's brought together over the next whatever the timescale is, but it'll be more than a few months. Sir.
Supplementary, sir.
Yes.
Thank you, and I thank the Chief Minister for his answer, because I was thinking about not just the inpatient facility, but the continuation of the senior adult wards like dementia, as he mentions. So I'm glad to hear that thought process, because that's years away, but equally it's an obvious question, but the parish obviously being involved. How can he ensure that the government, future government, will engage with all the representatives of the parish pre or post the next election? Thank you.
If it helps, as Chief Minister, I give an absolute commitment, because I know that the Housing Minister had already spoken to the Constable of St Saviour's on the subject. I give an absolute commitment that the parish of St Saviour's and any other parties will be engaged in the development of the scheme, sir.
Deputy Son.
Thank you, sir. When will the Chief Minister, be in a position to put some figures on what this vast majority of home supplies is going to be?
Sir, I can't answer that one yet, sir, because it's basically, sir, the whole mix of this is around how many you can get onto the site and what the overall site costs are. I'm obviously not talking about land value. I'm talking about what the planning requirements will be on the existing buildings out there, for example, the Grade 1 listed. And also, if, for example, what else has to happen to other parts of that site, and including, for example, if health do want a dementia unit there or not, which would be within the considerations. But for me, vast majority is more than 50%. That's the way I would interpret that. But until you know the absolute number of units, I can't give any more precise figures than that, sir.
Supplemental.
It will take a while to get that scheme drawn up.
Supplemental, Deputy.
So, without wishing to argue with the Chief Minister, over 50% is a slim majority.
Sorry, sir. I'm not going to bandy words on with the Deputy on this one. I think the point is, we want to see, we do want to see the site used for the outline that we've given. That is also the commitment we kind of gave in the previous debates. This is the type of site that lends itself to this type of development. But we do know equally there are a lot of pressures in all sorts of areas, as I said, including key worker, for example. So, but I would expect, I would hope, an imaginative scheme with significant provision of the housing types we talked about, and as we said, more by far, and the majority being in those categories.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Chief Minister, does he have an indicative timescale for when these homes may be built and available for people so desperately in need of a new place to live? Thank you, sir.
I don't have one to hand, sir. There was a timeline which was produced. I thought that was shared with members, and I think it did refer to St Saviour's Hospital on there. One's also got to make sure, sir, that for fairly obvious reasons, the certainty, well, the reason we've been able to release the site is because we believe we've got certainty on Overdale in terms of obviously the state's decisions. Obviously, if, for example, there's any change to that project, so we need to make sure that the planning permissions on Overdale, in my view, are achieved, which hopefully will be before the elections or around the elections. And then that will give absolute clarity as to the timeline we can work on, because that then gives clarity as to when the mental health unit, for example, will be moved out of the hospital of St Saviour's to go up to Overdale. And so that will determine then when we can then essentially be ready to go into demolition and to clear the site.
Supplementary.
Yeah, I didn't have one until that answer. Can I just confirm with the Chief Minister then that there is still a risk that this site will not be used for housing, from what he's just said, and that we actually won't have an indicative time scale until a number of other variables seem to have been decided upon? Am I interpreting that wrongly, sir?
Sorry, I probably slightly phrased it badly, sir. The point I was trying to make, sir, is if there was any delay in getting the mental health facility agreed up at the Overdale site, that would mean then, sir, the provision would continue at St Saviour's Hospital until that had been resolved, and that could delay. So in other words, there are things that are lined up that free these up. We believe we are in a position to start planning, sir, but one won't have absolute certainty until the fate of the scheme at Overdale is resolved. That we hope will be in the first few months of next year. And at that point, one will have then absolute certainty and certainty as to a timeline. And I do agree with public comments that have been made over the weekend. What we should be doing when we have that certainty is then essentially have that planning happening in parallel, such that when the site is vacated, essentially the diggers can move in, sir.
Well, Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. St Saviour's Hospital is a Grade 1 listed building and does afford the greatest protection in planning terms. What is the general consensus? Is there the main view to actually knock it down or preserve it?
So I think we are getting significantly ahead of ourselves in terms of what that scheme might look like. I genuinely do not have an answer to that. And I'm certainly, bearing in mind, I know Deputy Truscott is a member of the Planning Committee, not going to have a debate on planning policy, particularly around Grade 1 listed buildings, because that's definitely within the remit of the plans that the planning department will put together in relation to the scheme. But my understanding at present would be that we would be expected to keep the existing buildings up.
Supplemental, Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. I do believe it will come in front of planning, so I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Connie St Saviour.
Yes, sir. I'm a little bit disappointed with this that's going on here at the moment, because St Saviour's, yes, Deputy Labby has spoken to me about it, and I've said what I feel should be needed there, but it won't be my problem because I will no longer be in office as I'm stepping down.
This has a supplementary question. It can't be a statement of your.
No, I'm saying, sir, this would have to go to a parish assembly, and I know Deputy isn't here, but surely the parishioners who are already being railroaded will have a say on what happens to St Saviour's, because this is very rude to the parishioners.
So will the parishioners have a say, I think, is the question, Chief Minister.
Sir, I thought I gave a commitment as clear as I could that as Chief Minister, as far as I'm concerned, the parish will have absolute engagement on getting this project moving forward, sir. I would just say, I think the point I'm trying to make as well, and some of the responses, is that there are a number of issues one's got to get past, and before even one's starting to put pen to paper, and that process hasn't started yet, as far as I'm aware. So we've got to have certainty, and as part of that process, I'm absolutely committed that the parish should be involved.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, Conatap.
Everybody is discussing this for St Saviour's, and I'm going to hold you to this, Minister, even if I'm not in office when this does take place. You must involve the St Saviour's parishioners. They have enough houses.
Conatap, I'm really sorry. Conatap,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
very sorry, but that is not a supplementary question. That is a statement made to the Chief Minister. If you have a supplementary question, then you're more than at liberty to ask it. But otherwise, this is simply not the place and the time for those kind of statements.
Thank you, sir. Well, could the Minister please guarantee that he will involve the new constable and whoever is in St Saviour's, please?
Chief Minister.
Sir, if I am in a position to do that, because bear in mind there obviously is an election, then absolutely, sir. And what I've done as Chief Minister, which I would hope would carry forward, is that as Chief Minister, I've committed that the parish will be engaged, sir, and that will also include the Conatap.
Final supplementary, Senator Mesek.
Thank you, sir. Will the Chief Minister agree that this project stands in stark contrast to those that have been proposed to be led by the States of Jersey Development Company in their ability to provide the homes that we demonstrably actually need in Jersey? And would he further agree that Andiam Homes should be seen as the provider of choice for affordable housing on all state-owned sites in future?
So I think the point is each site comes with its own characteristics and its own challenges, and each provider we have brings different skill sets, different funding, different approaches to that. I do believe, so I do agree, sir, that there is merit in reviewing those overall structures to make sure we don't have too many overlaps in how we do things. But I don't think one can jump from one from one developer to, I don't think we can give a preference, as it were, over one developer to another, even though both are in public ownership, because they both have different remits, both of which have been previously approved by this Assembly, sir.
Well, now, since we've come to the end of that question, do you have a point of order that you wish to raise with me?
Sir, forgive me for not raising it at an earlier point in the sitting. However, the Scrutiny Liaison Committee did write and ask if you would be kind enough to consider a ruling, and it prompted me to raise this point with you, to see the Chief Minister sitting in his office at Broad Street answering questions rather than being here in the chamber today, sir. We have pointed out that there is a level of concern in relation to the potential for officers assisting ministers in question time, but also in major debates. And of course, the main reason for the letter was because of the coming government plan debate, but also we raised the concern about these behaviours creeping into question time also.
So the concern is about the presence of officers or other persons with ministers when they answer questions?
Yes, sir, but also the fact that it is perfectly possible to be socially distanced in this chamber, and we have one minister here today, yet no others.
Well, I'm aware that I've received a communication from Senator Mesek, who has raised a very similar point and asked me to make a ruling. He indicated that he would ask for that ruling at the end of the afternoon. Are you content to wait until the end of the afternoon for that ruling?
Well, I do think that some ruling needs to be made with regards question time, because this is another opportunity, and I see no reason why ministers, if they're able to attend their office, today, then they should be able to attend the chamber.
Senator, did you wish to raise your point of order, which is on very similar terms, I think?
So if it's convenient to do so now, obviously I don't want to disrupt the running of question time.
I'll allow injury time, as it were.
Excellent. I'm pleased to hear that, sir. So as you know, I communicated with you over the weekend to raise a very similar point to that which Senator Moore has raised, which is that on a previous occasion, a bailiff has made a ruling with regards to strangers in the precincts of the State's Chamber, when in the past there has been an abundance of civil servants in the facilities here, and a ruling was made that they should not be present at that time. And things have now changed because of hybrid sittings, where you could argue that the precincts of the State's Chamber now extend to the other side of a computer screen, irrespective of where in the island that would be. And so I wanted to ask you if you would be able to consider that previous ruling in the new context we find ourselves in, where States members and in particular ministers don't have to be present in the chamber, and where certainly today it seems that there is a choice for many members to not be present in the chamber, with the admirable exception of the health minister. So I would like to ask if you could consider that previous ruling and consider whether that principle of there being a degree of separation between members and officers can be considered now, so that those members holding the executive to account can be sure that we're having direct access to ministers without any interference that wouldn't be present physically in this chamber.
I'm able to give a ruling now because of the helpful notice that I've had of the ruling and the fact that it would be asked today. I was able to consider it over the luncheon adjournment, well, not adjournment, but the lunch period. I'm asked to rule on the presence of officers and others with ministers where ministers are answering questions with or without notice during a sitting of the Assembly. The standing orders which permit remote participation are silent on this point, but they are clearly, as I have ruled in the past, intended to permit members to participate in a sitting where by reasons of the pandemic they would otherwise be unable to do so. Those orders were not designed to extend beyond what is necessary to achieve that end, and as far as is possible, the conditions that obtain in the Assembly should be replicated in the remote environment. The rule of the Assembly extends into those spaces as well. Accordingly, in my view, ministers should have no greater access to officers and advice than they would if they were in the Assembly, and therefore it seems to me that officers should not, unless it is impossible to arrange otherwise, and be present with ministers during ministerial questions. This applies also to non-ministers answering questions in the formal environment of the Assembly. I appreciate that this ruling may be difficult to police, but I'm conscious, as has always been the case, that ministers will act with integrity and honesty as is expected of all States members, and will of course adhere to this ruling. As to whether ministers should be required to be in the Assembly, I think that the position that we are in at the moment is permissive. Ministers are not required to be in the Assembly, but I would warmly encourage ministers who are in a position where they are responding directly to questions raised by members or dealing with a matter that they are bringing before the Assembly, unless they are otherwise unable to do so, to be in the Assembly. But I think I can do no more than encourage that at this point. Very well, that is the ruling from the Chair. I will allow a further 5 minutes to question time. Very well, we now come to question 4 that Senator Pallett will ask of the Chief Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Further to the publication of housing rights and children in Jersey and the related policy position of the Children's Commissioner, will the Chief Minister advise what action he will take to implement the recommendations of the Commissioner, particularly in respect of the conflict of interest identified by the Commissioner in the role of the Deputy Chief Minister in hearing appeals under the Control of Housing and Work Law 2012?
Yes, Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, thank you. Sorry, so I was reflecting on the points that have been raised previously. Yeah, I thank the Children's Commissioner for her report, which was received last Monday, and we're also considering the points raised in that report. As the Senator will be aware, in his role as the Chair of the Migration and Population Review Panel, a review of the current Control of Housing and Work Jersey Law 2012 is underway. As part of this review, proposed amendments to the appeals process are already in draft. The intention was to lodge in December and ahead of the population policy. However, the draft Control Housing and Work Law has been reviewed by the Law Officer Department, and some further changes are required before it can be brought forward for lodging. Some of those changes relate directly to the appeals system and ensuring that it is Article 6 of the Human Rights Compliance.
Supplemental, Senator Ballard?
Yes, please, sir. I fully appreciate the answer given by the Chief Minister, which in which he very much talks about the Control of Housing and Work Law and potential amendments to it. But there are other recommendations within the Children Commissioner's report and policy suggestions. When will you take the other recommendations into account? And is that something he's currently looking into and working on?
I think the short answer, sir, as I said, it came in last Monday, and the Senator may appreciate we've been dealing with the 26 amendments brought by members over the past week. And in fact, if I use a summary of the first 2 hours of my morning, it's been fisheries, Brexit, COVID, international tax, and preparing for the government plan. So oddly enough, sir, I have not started preparing for it, sir. The report is being looked at. We'll consider those points in due course, sir.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. The Chief Minister will hopefully be aware of the legislative gap analysis which was undertaken through the Children's Commissioner's Office previously to investigate which areas of law need to be updated so that Jersey law is compliant with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And what the Children's Commissioner has raised with housing rights here is a very clear-cut issue. So will the Chief Minister commit here and now to updating or amending our Control of Housing and Work Law in some form or another, pending a review to confirm the most appropriate way to do so, to ensure that in the future this law is fully compliant with the principles that are outlined in the UNCRC?
So I think the important thing, sir, is that it is human rights compliant. That's what we are ensuring. And that will no doubt come across when those changes come through to members, which should be, well, as I said, I would be anticipating in the next very few weeks.
Supplementary, please.
Supplementary, yes.
So the Chief Minister just mentioned this being human rights compliance, and I don't doubt that that is true, but the United Nations Conventions on the Rights of the Child goes beyond what is simply in the ECHR or Jersey's human rights law to ensure that Jersey's children are genuinely being put first. So I appreciate that may have been a slip of the tongue from the Chief Minister, but will he confirm that he will be seeking to update the Control of Housing and Work Jersey law to ensure that it is compliant with the UNCRC, irrespective of whether it's already compliant with the ECHR, because they are two different things?
Sir, we will make sure that we adhere to our commitments under all the various UN conventions that we have to do, sir. What I'm not going to do at this stage is commit to something when we are still analysing the report, sir.
Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister inform the Assembly when he last met with the Children's Commissioner to discuss these matters?
Also, on the basis that these matters is captured by the report that was issued last Monday, so I've certainly not met the Commissioner since then, sir. Although I may have seen her at a distance at St Peter's Garden Centre yesterday, sir.
Sir, these matters are very serious. They've been raised by the Children's Commissioner and on a number of occasions, and as Senator Mezek stated, particularly clear in her legislative gap analysis. Would the Chief Minister inform the Assembly how regularly he meets with the Children's Commissioner and when he last met with her, please?
So I don't have my diary immediately to hand, so I can't tell the Senator when I last met with her. I have met her in Broad Street in the last few months, and she also presented to the council ministers also in the last few months. And yes, I am fully aware of the legislative gap analysis because she presented it to the council ministers when it was produced.
Final, Deputy Ward.
Sorry, thanks. I was late with, I thought I'd pressed it. Anyway, may I ask the Chief Minister, can he give us a timescale as to when this report will be dealt with and acted upon, given that the government plan debate should finish this week?
No, sir. I will say that Deputy Wickenden is on with the Children's Commissioner on, will be liaising with the Children's Commissioner on this, but I do not have a timescale to hand, sir.
So I apologise, I couldn't hear that.
Deputy Wickenden will be meeting with the Children's Commissioner, but the Chief Minister can't provide you with a timescale at this point. Was that correct, Chief Minister?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. I compliment you on your hearing. It's better than mine. I don't have a supplementary.
Very well. A final supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Thank you, sir. In the meantime, before any amendments are made to the current housing and work law, we're dealing with the current system. I wonder if the Chief Minister could say whether he's going to take any action to ensure that appeals that are heard under the housing and work law do take fully into account the best interests of children and their families.
Sir, in essence, as I understand matters, most of the appeals process is actually to the main body of HAWAG as opposed to the DCM, and therefore it is in a very few occasions that the issue that has been identified arises. I will be having a discussion with appropriate officials and also with the appropriate ministers at some point to see what needs to be resolved, sir. And if there is an issue, obviously it will be so.
Very well. We now come on to question 5. The Connétable and Brillard will ask the Minister for Infrastructure. Connétable.
Thank you, sir. Given the Assembly's request to the Minister to report back to the states on the success or otherwise of the pedestrian priority restrictions in Broad Street by the end of 2021, will he state whether he will be in a position to provide an update by the end of the year as agreed? Thank you, sir.
Minister.
Thank you, sir. Well, the answer is yes, sir. I can confirm it is my intention to present a report by the end of the year as required by P28 2021. I can also advise I recently met with Deputy Gardner and the Constable Crowcroft, the sponsors of the proposition, to discuss my initial findings and explore future opportunities, with a particular emphasis on parking and access provision for people with disabilities and limited mobility. I was encouraged by their feedback and look forward to continuing to work closely with them as the study progresses, sir. Thank you.
Supplemental, Connétable.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister agree that the closure has failed to produce tangible results in terms of commercial benefit?
I cannot argue with the Council on that point, sir, but all will be revealed in the reports which will be coming forward in the very near future, sir.
Deputy Ward, are you wishing a question of this Minister?
Yes, please, sir.
Yes, Deputy Ward.
So I ask the Minister, can I ask the Minister what he sees as a tangible success for this project?
Well, members are aware, sir, that I intended to reopen Broad Street, but a proposition was brought by the Constables and Helier and amended by Deputy Gardner to keep it closed with certain provisions. So the ball is not in my court as such. I work at the bidding of the States Assembly. We also have lots of other things coming into the mix. We've increased a lot of the disabled parking in Sand Street car park and also increased the parent and child parking. So in fact, the entire level 4 in Sand Street car park is now disabled and parent and child, which could also include grandparent or guardian. But so there's lots in the mix. Plus we've got the town bus service in the pipeline. So all that will come through into the report, sir.
Supplementary.
Supplementary, Deputy.
Can I glean from that the Minister cannot see this as possibly a successful project, as he doesn't know what success looks like for the project of Broad Street itself, which is what the question is about, sir? Thank you.
I'm not sure I understand what the question is, sir. I don't know what success looks like. That's quite bizarre. This is a matter for members, sir. It is not my proposition. This was brought forward, so it is the view of the members. If states members direct me in a certain way, then that is what I must do. The success, from my point of view, is an amendment to allow buses back into Broad Street. That was a success. And cycling also is permitted one way down Broad Street. That is a success. Obviously, taking care with pedestrians, but the work is ongoing, sir, to measure where the success lies.
Well, Deputy Masson.
Thank you, sir. Has the Minister been made aware of the concern that if a disabled person wishes to stay at the Premier Inn, say with a suitcase, for example, there is anecdotal evidence from taxi drivers that they can't pull up and assist that disabled person that way. Is the Minister aware of this concern and will he act on it? Thank you, sir.
I am indeed aware of it, sir. It's not anecdotal. It is an actual fact that taxis are not permitted down there, sir. It's not after 11 a.m. in the morning. That's the usual scheme that's going on at the moment. There's also been a few shop owners who would like access after that time as well. It is a problem, and officers are working on that, sir. There is ample disabled parking, but not exactly where people want it. For instance, as I say, just around the corner, literally 50 yards away, in Sand Street car park, there's a whole basement of disabled parking plus level 4, which I previously mentioned. But it's parking outside, obviously, that is very, very difficult, sir. There is Demaric Street, which is literally around the back.
Supplemental, Deputy Masson?
No, thank you, sir. I'm glad it's been heard. Thank you.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And as the Minister mentioned regarding the proposition, I would like to seek a clarification from the Minister. As the proposition intended that we would have a bus service which would go around the library place and allow Broad Street to be pure pedestrian. What we have created, we created half pedestrian, half traffic through, and it doesn't help to any of the parties. Would Minister agree that creating clarity, if it's pedestrian or non-pedestrian, would help for the public to use the Broad Street accordingly?
Well, I await the reports to which the Deputy will be feeding into that. As I say, I think it's a success at the moment to get the buses going back down Broad Street. And lots of people who do have mobility problems are able to use the bus, and to be dropped off in Broad Street is a great bonus for them. Also, it assists in getting around various other parts of St Helier town, which would be very difficult if they took an alternate route. So everything is in the mixer.
Supplementary, please.
Yes, indeed.
Would Minister see a success if the bus would be able to get to the library place, which is almost the same place, and keep Broad Street pure pedestrian?
Not the way the routes are laid out, sir, no.
Very well. Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. I think there was a fair deal of criticism right at the beginning that not all of the stakeholders in Broad Street were actually consulted. Could the Minister assure the Assembly that this time everyone was consulted, that have either businesses or premises in Broad Street were consulted?
I believe that will be part of the process in the report, sir. As I pointed out, it wasn't my proposition. So, but the report does come back to me, and I will make sure that all the premises in Broad Street are consulted, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Truscott?
No, thank you, sir. I look forward to the report.
Final supplementary question, Connie-Tapis and Brillard.
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister confirm whether the extended closure is influenced by the impending demolition of some properties in Broad Street as part of an imminent large development taking place there? Thank you, sir.
Not to my knowledge, sir. I'm aware there is a large development in the pipeline halfway down Broad Street, but that shouldn't impact on the road.
Very well. We come to question 6 that Senator Ferguson will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise whether he is aware of the results of any investigation by the General Medical Council into the conduct of a senior ophthalmic surgeon and a senior maternity consultant in connection with the withdrawal of an offer of employment to Dr. Al-Witri? And if so, will the Minister state what action has been taken by the Health and Community Services as a result?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I am aware that the General Medical Council conducted an investigation into an ophthalmologist in 2015 in relation to the Al-Witri case. This case was closed in October 2015 with no action taken by the GMC and consequently no action taken by Health and Community Services. I am not aware of any GMC investigation into a maternity consultant in connection with the Al-Witri case. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Senator Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. Given that it has cost the taxpayer a substantial amount, why is the taxpayer not entitled to know what they have paid for?
I'm sorry, sir, I don't understand the question. The taxpayer doesn't pay for the General Medical Council.
No, but the whole investigation has arisen and has cost the taxpayer because of the behaviour of the members of the medical profession in turning down in sacking the doctor before he actually took up his post.
So, Senator, I'm not sure the Minister can comment on any of those things. It seems to me your question was designed to the General Medical Council's investigation into the conduct of 2 members of the medical profession. Only one has been investigated, and the Minister has said he's not aware of any other investigation, and he said that no further action will be taken. So it's not clear that there has been a cost to members of the public as a result of the actions of members of the medical profession. Are you able to reframe your question in a way which
given that the investigation of the senior ophthalmic surgeon has led to a course of action which has eventually cost the taxpayer a substantial amount, why cannot the taxpayer know what the results of the investigation were? You know, it seems unreasonable that they're eventually it's causing them to have to pay money, or taxpayers footing the bill for something like nearly £3 million in gross damages and goodness knows what in, and yet an investigation.
Senator, forgive me, Senator, but what is the question? You've said a number of things, but I'm not quite certain what the question is directed to the Minister.
Right, yes, what were the actual findings of the investigation?
Minister.
So there was a reference in one case to the General Medical Council, but as I have said, no action was taken by the General Medical Council, and that is what appears on the record. I don't believe there has been any expense to the taxpayer in the reference to the General Medical Council. So I'm afraid I really can't understand what the Senator is seeking from this question.
Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. A general question now. If the Minister could describe to the Assembly whether it is usual practice for the findings of a report to the General Medical Council to be shared with the Minister.
I believe the General Medical Council reports would be sent to the island's medical director, who would then brief me accordingly. But the results of General Medical Council investigations are posted on the Council's website, and anyone can go to the website, look up the name of any healthcare professional to see if there is any investigation that has been conducted and what the results of that investigation might be. In this case, there's been one investigation and the Council chose to take no action.
Supplemental, Senator?
Thank you, sir. Would the Minister be aware of more recent reports that have been suppressed from publication on the GMC's website?
I'm not privy, sir, to how the GMC report. That would be a question of their own governance. I'm certainly not aware of any suppression of reports, but as the GMC is not something that comes under my remit, of course. Far large organisation.
And final supplementary, Senator Ferguson.
So that in actual fact, the Minister confirms that we can go onto the GMC website and actually look up this investigation.
Are you giving that confirmation?
I think it's the case, sir, that what is available is the record that an investigation was undertaken, but no action was taken.
Very well. We come to question 7. The Deputy Lehegarah will ask the Minister for Home Affairs. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister advise how Prison Mino Way is currently being delivered?
Minister.
Sir, Prison Mino Way is not currently being delivered. It was suspended pending review.
I'm so sorry, Minister. I don't think. Well, I certainly can't hear you, and I suspect many others can't either. Are you able either to get close to the microphone or speak a little more loudly, please?
Sorry, can you hear me now?
That is somewhat better, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. My screen says that I've been queued. But if you can hear me, that should be good enough. Prison Mino Way is not currently being delivered. It was paused pending review. Both Home Affairs and SIPES are working on plans to deliver a new program to meet the needs of the island's young people as part of their 2022 business plan. We are now looking for a business analyst to scope the new scheme in partnership with SIPES, with a view to have it up and running by September 2022. In the meantime, the States of Jersey Police Community Policing Team continues to actively work with children and young people to provide support and advice around preventing offending and antisocial behavior. I look forward to updating members further as plans emerge.
Supplemental, Deputy Lehegarah.
Yes, please, sir. When was the funding withdrawn for Prison Mino Way, and what workshops have been run by Justice and Home Affairs and SIPES in the interim time, as explained in his answer?
Prison Mino Way was suspended just before the pandemic started, so I believe that will be end of 2019. There has been several workshops run by JHA and SIPES with key stakeholders to determine the future direction.
Very well. We come on, Senator Moore.
Apologies, sir. What was the rationale for withdrawing the delivery of Prison Mino Way? Were there any particular concerns about the outcomes or the effectiveness of that project, given that the Minister described it had been ceased before COVID?
Minister.
Yes, sir. I don't think there were any specific concern about the delivery of the program by Prison Me Norway, but we were certainly looking at a more efficient system to work with SIPES and JHA.
No supplemental. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Could the Minister confirm, is it the case then that post-pandemic, a pandemic in which young people were locked down as the rest of us, and it was predicted there would be a rise in antisocial behaviour and possible offending by young people, is it then the case that there is currently no preventative programme in action that's
Actually,
preventing youth offending?
There are always programs in action, and certainly the police has had very specific programs in the last 3 years. Two of them were actually actual operations, which were fairly similar. And again, the community policing team is still actively at work. We are looking for a replacement for Prison Me Norway, and I hope it will be operational before the end of 2022.
Supplementary, please, sir.
Yes, Deputy, certainly.
Would the Minister then please advise the Assembly as to the names, the titles of those programmes, particularly those that have been operating in the past 12 months since the main lockdown finished? And can he confirm whether or not the vast increase in the numbers of stops and searches of young people are one of those programmes, or is one of those programmes?
The name of one of them escapes me right now, but I certainly remember Operation Porter, which was an extremely targeted operation, which did happen with the help of schools. So it was something that was at the same time to prevent offending, but also, in the same vein as what Prison Me Norway was delivering.
And so are the stop and searches part of these preventative programmes?
No, they were not, sir.
Very well. Final supplement. Oh, Deputy Ward.
Sorry, sir, I was just going to ask a quick question of the Minister. Can the Minister confirm what saving was made in the removal of the programme for Prison Me Norway, i.e. what costing was not spent on it, and where the funding that previously funded Prison Me Norway went to? Thank you, sir.
Sorry, I do not know the actual budget of Prison Me Norway. The BAS system, the Build a Safer Society, is supposed to be a seed-corn system that does not entirely finance the charities, but help them start. So I don't know what the budget was when we suspended our help to it. I can provide this answer, of course, if the deputy wishes.
No, thank you, sir.
Final supplementary, Deputy Hegarach.
Thank you, sir. Prison Me Norway was a very successful tool in the box for the states of Jersey. And what I will ask the Minister is when they come back with a programme, will this be delivered in schools, as in all of the programmes that were, and including all of those people that participated? For example, fire service, ambulance service, youth service, police, etc., etc. Bearing in mind that I think the Minister has alluded to some operations. Operations are not what was delivered by way of Prison Me Norway. Thank you, sir.
Absolutely. Definitely. First of all, we have we have no reason to think that Prison Me Norway was not successful. I think it delivered exactly what it was supposed to do, and certainly whatever replaces it does have to happen in school and with the help of the other services of Home Affairs.
Very well. We come to question.
May I just, sorry to interrupt. I'm really struggling. I don't know if it's my hearing. Might be. I have damaged my hearing over time.
This is a point of order, is it?
So it's just I'm struggling to make out answers, and I don't know if something can be done about the other. I don't know what to do about it. I can't believe that anyone at home who may have any difficulty in hearing this is accessible. I can't help pointing out it'd be a lot easier if ministers were in the assembly because the sound's pretty good in here, sir.
Well, Deputy Leader, what I can say is that it is quite difficult to hear your answers. I was able to hear them, but I had to strain a little bit in order to hear them, and it may well be that other members were not in a position to hear them as easily as they might otherwise have been. And I also would mention that, and should have done so before, that that is not the first time that I've had that experience. And it would be helpful, I think, if you are not able to be in the Assembly during this time when members do not have to be physically present, if your sound system could be tested so that you're able to be heard very clearly with the Assembly when the time comes that you answer questions, and if that can be passed on for the benefit of all ministers or those answering questions in the Assembly, because that has been the experience of the presiding officer as well. Very well, we come to question 8 that Deputy Ward will ask the Minister for Housing and Community. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I'm so busy with my other question now, I've lost track of where we are. That would teach me. Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state the anticipated monthly mortgage cost of a 2-bedroom or 3-bedroom home at the new Waterfront and Southfield developments if purchased by a shared equity or deferred deposit scheme? Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Minister, it's Deputy Massol here. I'll be taking this question. Deputy Waters agreed.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you, sir. And I can confirm that I'm at home with no officers. I've only got the cat for company. The South Hill development is at least 10 months away from being released for pre-sale, and the first phase of the Waterfront is at least 2 years away from being released for pre-sale. The value of the open market units will be at the value prevailing in the market at the point where pre-sale contract is entered into. At this early stage in the development's timeline, it is impossible to give accurate monthly mortgage costs associated with the property, as this will depend on both the eventual sale price of the unit, the Bank of England base rate prevailing at the time, individual circumstances of the purchaser, which includes a number of variables, for example, the age, level of deposit, etc. The funder's interest rate, these obviously vary from funder to funder, and whether the purchaser has opted for a variable, fixed rate or tracker rate mortgage. With a shared equity option, islanders are able to access these homes, which are built to a full BREEAM standard, offering energy efficiency homes in a good location, close to improved local amenities. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Supplemental question?
Yes, sir. It's clear that there is absolutely no clue as to how much these things are going to cost. So can I ask the Assistant Minister, therefore, how can we have been reassured during the recent debate that there was not a need for more affordable homes on that site, given we have absolutely no idea how much the other homes are going to be, even in the shared equity or deposit scheme? Can I ask the Minister, can he reassure people that they will be affordable? And if so, how can he do that?
Thank you, sir. The question which was proposed to me was about monthly remortgage payments. What SOJDC have as a way of estimated costs of the project are of course different, and they'll be working off of that model, which of course they have to work from. So that is the explanation. The thing is, you can't tie the final unit price with the monthly mortgage payments, which is what the deputy asked for.
Well, Senator Mosey.
Thank you, sir. The deputy said in his original answer that this would be based on the prevailing market rates at the time. Given that in the last 12 months, the cost of an average home in Jersey has increased by £97,000, can we assume that for those waterfront-based properties that we'll be looking at a cost in the range of £200,000 more than they would be worth today?
So I'm unable to answer that question. I simply don't know. And I don't think anyone can know.
Well, so given that that has been the case for the rate of increase over the previous year, is the Assistant Minister telling us that there is currently no ability to anticipate how much those properties will be valued at that time? And if they're unable to anticipate that, doesn't that make a mockery out of the financial projections that were given to states members in the previous debate and used for grounds for opposing more affordable housing?
So I don't agree with the assertions that the Senator is putting together, in that, yes, anyone can make estimates, anyone can apply percentages to them and come up with a figure. But of course, we won't know what that will be for when a pre-sale contract is passed.
Well, final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Can I ask the Minister, given that we don't know how much there'll be, but there's a huge increase in the market and they will go on to market value, can I ask the Assistant Minister to confirm if they are at a price which is unaffordable to first-time buyers, unaffordable to young families, unaffordable for those trying to get somewhere to live, will they then go to investors because they have to be sold, given that circumstance? So can the Minister rule out that they will be sold to investors or not? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. All of this, I think, is addressed in the report which was published earlier in the year, which actually ties into the next question from Deputy Ward. And I think that the caveats in that report are quite clear.
Very well. We come now to question 9 that Deputy Ward will ask the same Minister. Deputy.
Thank you, sir. I look forward to this answer. Will the Minister advise when the bans on foreign buy-to-let investors from purchasing homes, as agreed by the Assembly, will be put into place and take action?
Yes, thank you, sir. I think that Deputy Ward is referring to P 165 of 2020, and to remind members of the wording of that proposition as amended, it says that the states are asked to decide whether they are of opinion that in the proposed development of the waterfront by the States of Jersey Development Company, Clause A, no residential properties should be sold by the SOJDC to foreign buy-to-let investors. Ministerial guidance to prevent foreign-owned buy-to-let investors was issued to SOJDC in respect of the South Hill development and the waterfront development on the 1st of September and 30th of September 2021 respectively. This is publicly available in R 157/2021. The South Hill and waterfront development properties will be sold as flying freehold to either entitled or licensed residents as per the Control of Housing and Work Jersey Law 2012. Furthermore, all SOJDC developments or future SOJDC developments will be structured by way of flying freehold. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy.
Thank you, sir. Can I just confirm then from the Assistant Minister that all future, as you suggested, developments in the States of Jersey Development Corporation, the waterfront, South Hill, and whatever else comes along, will not end up in the hands of foreign buy-to-let investors at any stage during their lifespan? Thank you, sir.
So I can only reiterate what I've already told the Assembly, which is the SOJDC have been given instruction that future developments, so that's excluding waterfront or South Hill, although they have been included as part of it, but we're talking about developments other than those particular ones. The future ones will be flying freehold, and they will be subject to the provisions within the Housing and Work Law in accordance with the report 157.
Senator Mesnick.
And thank you, sir. The wholesale banning of foreign buy-to-let investor properties in Jersey across the whole island, not just the waterfront, was the one tangible policy that was actually found in the Creating Better Homes Action Plan. Can the Assistant Minister confirm when that will be enacted in Jersey and when it will be legally impossible for a foreign buy-to-let investor to acquire property in Jersey?
Can I confirm that when that will be done? No, because as the Senator quite correctly identifies, it's actually quite a legally complex matter to deal with. What we have been able to do is over the sites that the States of Jersey through their shareholder representative can do, we have done, but as for across the whole of the island, I am unable to give a timeline on that because of the legal complexities.
Thank you, sir. Supplementary.
Yes.
Is the Assistant Minister therefore confirming that the one tangible proposal in the entire Creating Better Homes Action Plan document is one which he is unable to provide a timetable for when it will actually be implemented? It was the only tangible proposal in that entire document. When will that be implemented?
So I can only reiterate what I've said. It is quite a significant piece of work that requires a significant amount of legal consideration, which at the moment we don't have an implementation date for.
Final supplementary, Deputy Ward.
No, sir, thank you.
Come to question 10. That Senator Pallett will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister explain why he did not meet the official 28-day deadline and a later deadline of his own making to respond to an e-petition seeking to reinstate the rehabilitation services of Samurai Ward? And will he explain how it was assessed as acceptable that the service is now located in a 12-bed ward in a general hospital rather than the original purpose-built unit at Overdale?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. I take responsibility for the time taken to respond to the petition. I recognise the concern about rehabilitation provision, and I wanted to fully understand the issues giving rise to those concerns and ensure I could respond with assurances to patients. So accordingly, I went about asking questions and visiting the wards in question. I consulted and met practitioners and responded to the petition only when I felt assured we were able to deliver the care needed by patients. A stroke patient begins rehabilitation as soon as possible after admission following a stroke. Some patients are able to be discharged home and receive ongoing rehabilitation and support there, and this is recognised as usually delivering the better outcomes. However, some patients will still require rehabilitation in an inpatient setting and will be moved on to Plemore Ward, which is now our inpatient rehabilitation ward. Prior to March 2020, they would have been moved on to Samurai Ward. All staff from Samurai were transferred to Plemore. There's been no reduction in staffing levels, and as written question 483 shows, the staff and non-staff expenditure on the service is much the same as it was when the service was delivered at Samurai. But of course, the environment has changed. Samurai Ward was a spacious, calm, healing environment with patients having their own rooms. I recognise it was close to people's hearts. Plemore Ward was designed as an acute hospital ward. That patients do not have their own rooms generally, although 4 private rooms are available. And of course, much has changed for staff arising out of the pandemic. We must recognise that the early days staff were working with fear and uncertainty. They had extra procedures and additional PPE. Some were redeployed. We acknowledge that many staff are still exhausted and face apprehension and anxiety. It's difficult to deliver therapies in that atmosphere, but there has been no reduction in the package of care available. I do acknowledge communication has been...
I must ask you to bring your answer to an end, I'm afraid. It's been over well over 2 minutes on the normal 1 minute 30 seconds.
Thank you, sir. I would just say, and I'm sure I will elaborate in supplementaries, that we are taking extensive steps to review the situation and make all improvements we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Yes, please, sir. I think anybody listening to that answer would come to the conclusion that not only we're paying the same for what is now a much reduced service, and I do understand the Minister saying that the staff are doing a fantastic job, and there is no doubt that they are. But and as much as I appreciate the Minister's answer on an issue that is such a major concern to islanders, can he explain why so many islanders recovering from severe stroke or illness are not getting the support they desperately need, both within hospital and when they return home? And what is he currently doing to remedy these issues?
So the transition may have given the appearance and may actually have in some respects, reduce the service. That's not what is intended, of course, and the service does not need to be reduced. We can deliver in Plemor what was delivered at Samaray. It is a different environment, clearly, but there's no reason why the therapeutic care cannot be delivered in Plemor Ward. And the staff are still there to do so. And as for the work in the community, we must recognize as well that the pandemic impacted the community teams. They were not able to visit people in their homes. The outpatient clinics were severely curtailed, and backlogs have arisen as a result. And those staff also have been affected by all that the pandemic has brought. But we have established a task and finish group to bring both the inpatient provision and the community provision to a point where it is delivering just as we want it to. And there's a lot of work that has been going on in recent months to do that. In my response to the petition, I also said that we would initiate an independent review to ensure that we are delivering the best provision we can in the island. Thank you, sir.
Conor St John.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister aware that unlike the patient experience on Samaray, rehab patients on Plemor are still going for days without any physiotherapy, and therefore there has been a reduction in service?
Well, I'm not aware of that, sir, because those are not the reports that I am getting. There are 9 therapy staff that work on Plemor Ward, and that is well staffed. Physiotherapists, occupational therapists, speech and language therapists who are providing the services they are trained to provide to their patients. And if the CONITAB wishes to refer any specific case to me, I would want to look into it. I would certainly want to. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. There are not one case, but many cases I could refer. Would the Minister agree with me that it is a completely different ethos and that rehab on an open general ward is not conducive for rehab patients? Thank you.
Yes, I accept that. Plemor Ward is not Samaray Ward. Samaray Ward was spacious. It was calm. It was a different environment, but that does not mean to say that we cannot deliver the therapeutic interventions needed for patients. Thank you, sir.
Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. Given the complaints, as the Connétable of St John has said, given the complaints we have received with regard to facilities for therapy in Plemor Ward and following up at home, does it not give the Minister cause for concern about this with regard to the Jersey care model?
Minister.
No, so I don't relate this to the Jersey care model. This has been an impact of the pandemic when a decision was taken to bring all services into one central place. And the pandemic caused the services in the community to cease of necessity for that while at the height of the pandemic. It is recognised by all those working in the area that rehabilitation in the community is the best option and delivers the better outcomes for patients, so that as soon as possible, patients should be discharged and receive rehabilitation in the community. And we are working to deliver that, and much effort is going into ensuring that happens.
Does the Minister not realise that getting physiotherapy and so on in the community very often requires the patient to pay for services which they would normally have received for free, and that this is actually killing, I was going to say killing people off, but it's really making life extremely difficult if you can get a physio to actually visit you. Because obviously, if they're visiting Samaray's ward, where there are 28 rooms, cheek by jowl, they can get to far more patients than if they're scattered around the island. I mean, do these things not bother the minister? Does the minister not think about these things?
This is the question. I think is was there a reduction in the level of care when people have to have physiotherapy in the community, and does it cost people money? Is that correct?
Well, basically, they're not getting the care in the community. They're not getting the equivalent care that they would get at Samaray's ward.
Senator, I probably should have not have interrupted you, but there does have to be a question that the minister can answer. It cannot be a speech. It cannot be a number of assertions.
But you chopped me off in my prime, sir.
Well, I would hate to be accused rightly of doing that, but let me give you the opportunity just to ask the question in question terms now.
Does the minister really believe that the quality of service hasn't fallen?
Thank you.
I will accept there were challenges with this workforce as a result of the pandemic, and we are working to overcome that. But the purpose of rehabilitation is to try and restore the functionality of the patient to what it was before they were admitted. Now, that's not always possible following a stroke. Not everyone can work miracles. So it may be the case that when hospital treatment has gone, or secondary care treatment has gone as far as it can, then people have to enter into the long-term care scheme arrangements. And this is not just a rehabilitation need or others, but there may come a stage in life where long-term care is needed and patients take that step into the long-term care scheme. And we know the criteria around that, which mean that where patients can afford to do so, there has to be some contribution made. But at the end of the day, it's a good job we have that scheme, because it means people don't need to be selling their homes to access long-term care. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. Just wanted to thank the Minister for his open and very frank appraisal of the situation. And quite frankly,
no, I'm really sorry, Deputy. This is question time. You've just opened by thanking the Minister, and we're about to make another statement.
I do apologise. It's just the nice nature of myself. But it would appear that Plemont Ward is somewhat wanting in its present state. Could the Minister indicate how soon we can see a tangible improvement on the services offered there? Thank you, sir.
So I mentioned the task and finish group, and we are looking at how we can improve the environment, create more space by using present storage areas. I would like to put a dining table in, and we're working to do that, because Samaray Ward had a dining table where patients gathered. And the independent review I've spoken about will be asked as well to comment on the facilities available. There is a gym in Plemont Ward with all the equipment there. We want to make sure we maximise that space and ensure we've got all the equipment that is needed to provide good rehabilitation. Thank you, sir.
No supplemental, please.
No supplemental, Deputy. Very well. I have questions from Senator Moore, Deputy Gardner of the Connaught Isleston 1. No further questions other than the final supplementary on this one. Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister agree that there's a connection between two major shortages in the island at the moment, one for housing and one for staff, which is particularly impacting upon the availability of care in the community? This is placing pressure on patients who are being sent home after rehabilitating on Plemont Ward, as they struggle to either find adequate or affordable care in the community, or due to the housing crisis, they find themselves in accommodation that is unsuitable. We have heard reports, for example, if I may.
Well, actually, we really are very tight on time for this particular question. And
Well, we only
I
have
think,
13
Senator.
questions today, sir.
Yes, Minister.
Yes, sir. I think the senator's question is quite wide-ranging insofar as concerns the HCS community rehabilitation team. There are sorry, I'm trying to count quickly. There are 10 physiotherapists who work, 7 physiotherapists, 3 rehabilitation assistants who work in the community. That's not a shortage. There isn't a shortage in that team. But more widely, perhaps, as I think the senator was asking about provision of care in the community and provision of healthcare assistance, perhaps. Yes, that is part of the challenge. But we know many healthcare assistants came from European countries. It seems that they are no longer, not many of them are any longer in the island, and that's an immediate cause of some shortage. Whether that's going to rectify itself in the medium term, we just don't know. But yes, we know well about the difficulties of recruiting to an island where accommodation and cost of living is a factor.
Supplemental.
Yes, please, sir. I'm grateful to the Minister for acknowledging that there is a connection. So why does the Minister persist in sending patients home to both unsuitable accommodation and unsuitable care provision?
Minister.
Sir, no, patients will be discharged when it is appropriate to do so, and that's a medical decision. It's not my decision. They will be discharged to their own homes wherever possible, because that is recognised as providing better outcomes. It is better that people recover in their own homes, and if they need rehabilitation, they're in their own environment and to move around and learn how to live independently. So we have a team that will be assisting them, but I said in the answer to the petition also that we will ensure that the team that looked after them, if they were in Plemmoor ward, will manage a transition, will assist them in their own homes as well, whilst handing over to the community rehabilitation team. So we will ensure a seamless transition, and that care will continue to be available, and we'll do everything we can to improve the care.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I'm grateful that Minister recognized the concerns about the quality of the care. I would like to ask Minister how he can explain that we gone from 28 rehabilitation center delivering patient in private room with gym and dining room and other facilities for the half of the beds for the same cost.
There were 28 beds in Samurai, but it's not to say that they were always occupied. I understand that the assessment has been made that this service can be provided with 14 beds, though of course there is good bed capacity in the General Hospital, and if it were ever needed, other beds could be used. And rehabilitation does take place on other wards, orthopedic wards, for example. So this is a flexible service. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Gardner.
I would like to clarify, thank you, sir. I would like to clarify my initial question. From 28 beds, we've gone to the 14, or I thought about 12. So it's less than half beds, and it costs more or less the same amount of money. How does it work?
It appears that it does cost about the same amount of money. I don't have the bed occupancy figures for Samurai, I think. just looking back on the, I think that would depend on how many beds were occupied in Samaray to be able to draw a comparison. Thank you, sir.
Very well. Final supplementary, Senator Pallett.
Thank you, sir. The Minister used the phrase using storage areas. I'm not sure how low we are sinking here, but he's got a task and finish group to improve services. And whilst he is sorting that out, patients are suffering. Will the Minister consult further with all the key stakeholders in rehabilitation care in Jersey as a matter of urgency and reconsider his decision to close what was a centre of excellence in rehabilitative care for islanders?
So as a matter of urgency, we are working with all involved. I've spoken to the charities involved as well. And if the Senator has specific concerns because patients have brought those to his attention, then please let me know those specifics, because we do want to get it right. This is causing concern to all those working in the area. They're working hard to put it right. So we've got that task and finish group. We're conducting the independent review. We're also recruiting a stroke consultant and a frailty consultant who will be working in the service as soon as we've recruited them. So we are working urgently to provision the best service we can for our patients. Thank you.
So I asked, sorry to jump in. I asked the Minister whether he would reconsider his decision. He hasn't answered that question.
Specifically, sir, concerning the move, it seems to me if we move back to Samaray Ward, it would only be a very, very temporary move, given that this Assembly has decided that those buildings must be demolished if a planning application is approved to build a new hospital there. So that just causes more disruption. We can deliver this service in Plemmoor Ward. There's been no need to reduce services. The staff are there. There's been no reduction in what's on offer. So, sir, there is no need to reconsider the move back to Samaray. Thank you.
Very well. We come now to question 11 that Deputy Southern will ask of the same Minister. Deputy Southern.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister state how many people are currently receiving home care, how many healthcare assistants are providing such care, and the number of hours of care delivered? Will he indicate how these figures compare to those for 2019, pre-COVID? And will he advise what measures are being taken to ensure that more people who need access to home care are able to do so?
Minister.
Thank you, sir. There's a lot of data requested by this question, but in fact, it's not possible to give definitive figures relating to home care, as many individuals are arranging and accessing care on a private basis. However, we do have details of those who are accessing home care through the long-term care scheme. And at the end of 2019, there were a total of 478 long-term care claims for domiciliary care. And as at the 8th of December this year, there are 570 of those claims. The deputies asked about the number of hours of care delivered, and of course we can only say that as what is billed through the long-term care scheme. That was 19,589 in 2019 and 29,391 so far in 2021. So that's a significant increase in hours of care provided. Sir, the deputy may have heard of the recent Help at Home scheme that's been launched. HCS is working with 17 partners in the domiciliary care sector. They were asked to provide information on their staffing capacity in terms of their number of employees and vacancies. In October this year, 974 employees were recorded. However, they're not all home care assistants, as this total is made up of home care assistants and healthcare professionals. 126 vacancies were recorded at the time of submission, but of course, this doesn't include all home care providers, but only those who are part of Help at Home scheme. And the deputy asked what measures are being taken, and I would refer him to the Help at Home scheme funded by the Fiscal Stimulus Fund, £621,000 investment to grow the home care sector and support it with a recruitment campaign. And it is producing results, and it is a continuing campaign. Thank you.
Supplemental.
Yes, sir. I hear the words. It is producing results. This new mechanism, but does the minister not accept, given his previous answer, the previous question, that there is a shortage of qualified staff available to fill these positions, and this is a fundamental aim of his long-term Jersey Care model to deliver more support in the community rather than in homes, care homes.
Yes, sir. I said there is at the moment a shortage of staff, and the sector is feeling that. I think that has primarily arisen as a result of Brexit, and the sector was reliant on a number of workers who came from Eastern Europe, and many of those do not seem to be in the island anymore, which is why we're seeking local recruits. It is a valuable and rewarding sector to work in, but it's hard work and it's not everyone's cup of tea. But I know those who do work in it are dedicated and hard working. We do need to resource that sector, and much thought is going into how that will happen over the longer term.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, given the reinstatement of COVID regulations allowing care providers to use staff to perform tasks that are usually carried out by more experienced staff, is this affecting the number of qualified healthcare assistants available and providing a service? Thank you, sir.
No, I don't believe those temporary measures are affecting the number of staff available. Clearly, the staff are there. The agencies, by which I mean the employers, are working with the staff available to them and managing their workload. Thank you.
Supplementary question.
Yes, sir. I suppose the question is, does this care order extend to home care providers, and will the costs of those receiving care remain the same from other private providers, given that they may be receiving care from less experienced staff in this interim period of the COVID regulation being enforced?
So the order is made by the Minister for the Environment. Just at the moment, I'm not totally sure it extends to domiciliary care providers. So I don't want to mislead the Assembly if I get that wrong. I'm sorry.
So I wonder if we could have an answer to that in some way, because I think it is relevant to this question. But thank you, sir.
Are you able to provide?
Well, I will. Yes, sir. I will ask those listening to come back to me, to the Assembly, to say precisely what the order covers.
Well, thank you, sir. Final supplementary, Deputy Sub.
Thank you, sir. It seems to me that the Minister has effectively stated that he can't make a comparison between this year and 2019, before COVID, because he doesn't know the figures, and that his department has withdrawn from measuring those figures to see if we are succeeding in our primary aim of delivering care in people's homes through the Jersey Care model. Is that not the case?
Not at all, sir. We have been able to make comparison with the 2019 figures that come through the long-term care scheme, and that's all we can access, because the deputy will understand. Some people seek private care, and government doesn't get involved with that. So we cannot know or quantify what is being delivered privately. Thank you, sir. That's all I can answer.
Thank you. We now come to question 12 that Senator Mezek will ask of the Chief Minister. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Following reports that the demand for one of the island's food banks has risen by nearly 130% in the last 2 years, will the Chief Minister provide his assessment of this development, particularly in respect of whether Jersey's welfare system is providing an adequate safety net for islanders who fall into poverty?
Chief Minister.
Yes, sir, sorry. Just trying to unmute. So I'm extremely grateful to all voluntary organisations who provide help to others within the community. The Senator has asked me for my assessment, and I consider that Jersey's welfare system does provide an adequate safety net for low-income islanders. We all recognise that the COVID-19 pandemic has created a number of challenges for all islanders, and it may be that assistance provided during the pandemic, as coordinated, for example, by the government's Connect Me initiative, has increased awareness of the existence of food and other support available from Jersey's charitable sector. It is also important to note that Jersey's food bank network is more accessible than the UK's, as, unlike the UK, islanders do not need to be referred by citizen advice to receive a temporary voucher to use a food bank. Income support is available to anyone who's lived in Jersey for at least 5 years and provides a means-tested benefit system based on household income to help with daily living costs, including utilities and rental costs, and provides additional payments to help with health costs, sickness and disability. In addition, the new Health Access Scheme provides free GP visit for children and local visits for adults receiving income support. Unlike the UK, income support is paid in advance to ensure that low-income families have money the coming week. Thanks, sir.
Supplemental question, Senator?
Thanks, sir. I mean, I'm so staggered by that answer. It's so difficult to come up with a supplementary question to that, sir. Is the Chief Minister really saying that a rise in the use of food banks in the island of 130%, when in a wealthy society the use of food banks in here should be 0%, that he thinks our welfare system is adequately providing for these people whose desperation is so great they're having to rely on charities just to eat? Is that what he's really telling this wealthy society?
No, sir. And I think yet again, the Senator, who I do usually have a lot of respect and time for, is playing a little bit for the headlines as well, sir. Firstly, we've got to understand what the background is to those increases. Secondly, sir, if we use, for example, the United Kingdom as a comparable, very rough and ready figures, it would seem, sir, about just under 4% actually of UK residents have accessed food banks in 2020 to 21 for at least 3 days. It's around, I think, 2.5 million, I believe, sir. The Jersey position on a rough estimate is somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4%, sir. And so what I'm trying to say is that we need to understand it to see if there is an issue, but we do have a good income support system that is probably more accessible, sir, than the equivalent in the UK. But I think we also need to accept that on the island, we have a fantastic community, voluntary and honorary set of systems, sir, which provide certain services in a different way. And equally, sir, we've got an income support system that, as I said, is probably a bit more generous than that of the UK as well, sir.
Deputy Masson.
Sir, I can see a point of order, I believe.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Point of order, Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Not only did the Chief Minister take an excessive amount of time in providing us with some sort of an answer, but that was not an answer to the question, if I may.
Well, I'm not sure that that is a point of order, but you're seeking a ruling. It seemed to me that the Chief Minister made a number of points relating to the food banks and made a comparison. His answer, I think, to Senator Mezek's point could be inferred, and But of course, Senator Mezek does have a final supplementary question available to him at the end of this question, which undoubtedly he'll use in the direction he feels that he wishes. The excessive number of time is amount of time. I'm timing all of the answers. Some of them are running over 1 minute 30 seconds, some considerably, but quite often the questions have a lot of subdivisions within them. And given that we have a fair amount of time available to us, I'm making allowances for those. But you're right, a number of ministers have in their answers exceeded 1 minute 30 seconds, and that's a practice we should try and avoid. Thank you very much, Senator. Yes, Deputy Masson.
Thank you, sir. Does the Chief Minister agree that individuals accessing food banks can be done for various factors? Not having enough income is one of them, but also not being able to manage their finances well might also be another reason as to why individuals need to access food banks in Jersey, and that the solution to that particular problem is different again.
I think so. That would be a reasonable assumption, and also demonstrates the point about understanding the position before jumping to conclusions. Sir.
Supplemental question, Deputy Masson.
I thank the Chief Minister for his response. And is there a further complication in that understanding exercise that the Chief Minister wants to do, in that those that provide food bank the equivalent of food bank services in Jersey, the robustness and the criteria that's used is not consistent across all these providers, and therefore actually gathering that data to understand what the drivers are is even more complex?
Again, sir, I find myself in vehement agreement with the Deputy, sir.
Well, Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. And the Chief Minister praised our care system, income support system, for its work. Is he aware that if you're on income support, after your rent is paid, you're going to live all in on something like £130 a week? Could the Chief Minister estimate what his own consumption might be in such circumstances? Would he survive on £130 a week?
Sir, I'm informed that a single person out of work would be on £156.87 a week after the rent was paid. I hope that, so I suggest that the Deputy's assertion at the beginning is incorrect, sir.
130 or 150? The question remains the same. Could the Chief Minister survive all in for food, electric, transport, etc., after rent on that sum?
Sir, I honestly can't answer that question. For purposes of food and electricity, sir, I think on a limited lifestyle, sir, one probably can. And the reason I put it that way around, sir, is obviously if one is on income support, one will lead a different lifestyle to the one we lead when we are leading a fully employed and salaried lifestyle, sir. So, short answer, sir, on the basis of a change in lifestyle, yes, one could, sir.
Well, Deputy Ward.
So may I ask the Chief Minister what he considers as an acceptable level of food bank usage, and at what point he considers that people should have to go to food banks?
Sir, I don't think we go into this territory of what point do I consider that people should go to food banks. So it has been very clear the case. We've had an exceptionally challenging 2 years and been a low number of individuals relative to the population of this island who have, for whatever reason, needed some extra support. We don't have the data to understand the full increase. It is possible, given that we've had some really some periods of quite significant turmoil, particularly around employment, that people, for example, who ordinarily would be absolutely fine, have had gaps in their employment and have therefore needed help. There have, I do remind the Deputy and members, there have been a number of programmes that we have put in place over the last 2 years to help islanders. whether it's been the extra £100 we gave to income support, whether it's been the CRESS scheme, whether it's been the 2% reduction in social security, whether it's been a co-funded payroll scheme, sir. We have done a lot, and including, said previously, reducing the cost of seeing a GP for low-income families. There is a lot of support that's been put out there, and actually, sir, compared to particularly our UK neighbours, sir, I think we have supported islanders well, sir, as well as would ordinarily be expected.
Supplementary question.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Chief Minister then, what proportion of food bank users does he believe are there, as suggested by one of his assistant ministers, are there because they simply can't handle the finances, and by definition, he considers it to be their own fault? Thank you, sir.
Sir, firstly, to pick up the last part of the Deputy's question, he's making an assertion because that was not inferred at all in the question put to me by Deputy Masson. So if that is the Deputy's own interpretation and he can stand by that, I would not agree with that. Secondly, sir, I think it is not helpful to speculate in the absence of data on the subject, sir.
Very well. Final supplementary, Senator Meze.
Thank you, sir. Is this not a case of res ipsa loquitur, where the very fact that there are rising numbers of people using food banks is evidence that our welfare system is failing? And would the Chief Minister like to take the opportunity to say that as part of his commitment to reduce income inequality, not increase it, as this statistic demonstrates has been the case in his tenure, that he would like to see a welfare system that doesn't leave people relying on charity to make ends meet, because the point of a welfare system is to keep people out of poverty, is it not?
Sir, I don't do Latin, and I'm afraid I assume that you didn't realise Latin was an allowable language in the Assembly, sir.
Well, if it says, Chief Minister, res ipsa loquitur is a legal expression, which means the facts speak for themselves.
Ah, okay, sir. I assume it is Latin, though, is it? Or was it? But anyway, sir, the point I've made earlier, sir, is that this island, as I would hope many members recognise, does do something slightly differently to jurisdictions that Senator Mezek seems to favour often, for example, the United Kingdom. And as I said, we have a very strong and very welcome community, voluntary and honorary sector who do step in to help where there are gaps that the government and the services the government provides. And so to date, I believe that input, sir, for want of a better expression, from those sectors should be very widely welcomed. And as I said, sir, I do believe he asked me for my initial assessment, and my initial assessment shows that our welfare system does protect the islanders it is designed to protect. Thanks, sir.
Thank you very much, Chief Minister. Very well, we come to the last question in this section that Senator Ferguson will ask the Minister for Health and Social Services. Senator.
Thank you, sir. Given that the recent independent review of the Mental Health Department included substantial criticism of the department's management, will the Minister advise whether he has considered the department's evaluation of the services which Hope House was prepared to offer youngsters, and if not, why not?
Sir, Health and Community Services Adult Mental Health Department has not evaluated the services offered by Hope House, as Hope House is registered as a children's home under the Jersey Care Commission, and therefore does not provide services that would come under the remit of HCS. Decisions on this service sit with SIPES and the Children's and Education Minister. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental question, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. Yes, given that the Health Department know the excellent reputation of Silkworth, and given that we have a very new Education Minister, does the Minister not consider that he should be working with the new Minister to give the very best of opportunities to children at Hope House, rather than wait for the Education Do-It-Yourself scheme to commence?
Minister.
Sir, I share the Senator's view of Silkworth as an excellent provider of services, and it is true that HCS has services that it commissions from Silkworth in the adult sphere. So the Senator suggests that I should, and I think that is known to the Children's and Education Minister and SIPES. I have not had any dealings with SIPES or the Children's Minister on this. I've not been asked to intervene in the way the Senator suggests, and I cannot answer, sir, as to why this service has not moved forward. Thank you.
Well, given that the minister's own hospital.
Well, Senator, you'll have a final supplementary.
Oh, sorry,
but there are others to ask questions first. No, not at all. Not at all. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. Referring to the first part of the question with the criticism of the department's management, can the minister confirm whether any of the managers in question or any structures within that system have been used, have been involved in commissioning of mental health services to either charity providers or more relevant private profit-making providers for mental health services? I.e., is that criticised management involved in now commissioning those services away? Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir, HCS has commissioned services in the mental health field from charitable providers and private providers, and that would have involved those working in the mental health department and the social services department. But those services and that commissioning has gone through a proper process, and I'm satisfied that all is in order, sir.
Supplementary, sir?
Yes, Deputy.
And is the minister, can I just confirm with the minister that he is confident in those commissioning services, that there are no conflicts of interest or commissioners that those making decisions on commissioning that may have interests in particular groups or companies?
Certainly, sir. No conflicts have been brought to my attention, and I'm certainly not aware of any. I would not expect there to be. There are checks to make sure that those conflicts do not arise. If the deputy has any doubt at all, any information that he wishes to bring to my attention, I hope he would do so.
Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. At the recent PAC hearing with Director General for Health and Community Services, Karen London mentioned, the Director General mentioned that this service came ahead of time when we questioned that we need this type of services in the community. So would Minister address the comment that Hope House came ahead of time and it would be very beneficial for the Jersey care model, but not now?
I'm sorry, sir, I didn't quite catch that the deputy was suggesting Hope House had something.
The Director General commented that the Hope House is excellent facilities, but came ahead of time, too early. And it would be beneficial later on at the Jersey care model, but not now. Any comments?
That's a view expressed, sir. As I have not been briefed on the services that were intended to be offered at Hope House because it did not sit within HCS. So I'm afraid I cannot comment on the service that was intended.
Okay,
Well,
I would like a supplementary, please.
Yes, if it is a supplementary to that question.
Yeah, it is a supplementary. The Director General for Health take responsible for arrangement in the hospital. And obviously, Director General for SIPES was responsible for arrangement in the community. During PAC hearing, we questioned how the process from the hospital to the community working. And currently, what it seems from the minister's response, that there are still silos between health and the community, and the process doesn't work smooth. Is it correct?
Well,
In
sir, the
relation of the Hope House, apology, in the relation of the Hope House.
The deputy has the advantage on me because I was not at that hearing. So it's true that HCS delivers services to children in the hospital, for example, Robin Ward, and that SIPES delivers services in the community to children, of course, to the Children's Mental Health Team, CAMS, and there are structures around that. There are memorandum of understanding as to how that operates between the two departments, and those are always under review. But I know the professionals working in those areas are dedicated to their work and are ensuring that the system flows well and works well for children. I hope that helps the deputy, sir.
Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. The building used to be in the hands of Health and Community Services, is now in the hands of the charity. But the charity's remit is to help for teenagers with alcohol and drug problems, an issue that does affect Health and Community Services when dealing with those young people in the hospital. Given the minister's response about knowing the charity, will he seek to sit down with all relevant ministers to look at why this service is not being used to benefit young people? Because that is one of the main remits of the House's hopes to help.
Well, really, sir, I think that question should be referred to the Children's and Education Minister if the deputy wants to know why the service is not being used to benefit young people, because it is not a service that HCS would commission or would come under my remit. So I'm afraid I cannot provide the answers. The question needs to be asked elsewhere.
Supplementary question, Deputy Pamplin.
Yes, thank you, sir. I was also just prying onto the minister who mentioned he was aware of the charity's work, that he would take that forward to sit with the other ministers and look at what referrals can be put in place with his understanding of the charity's work, because they're in linkage between all the services, and that is the point of the Jersey Care model.
Well, sir, I undertake to have a conversation with the Children's Minister. That seems to be the wish of the deputy, but sir, there will be organisations that work across government and be involved in various departments, and because one department doesn't commission services, I don't think it's for another department to persuade. But I will have that conversation with the Children's Minister. Thank you, sir.
Well, I have a question for Conor St John, then Deputy Doublé. That will be the end of questions on this particular.
Thank you, sir. And it's a little like deja vu, because at the PAC hearing that Deputy Gardner referred to, the Director General of Health and Social Services confirmed that they provided resource for children and education. And it was confirmed by both Director Generals that neither were responsible, but both were responsible. So is Health responsible for this service? Thank you.
No, sir, and Health was never asked to commission this service. The discussions I understand around Hope House have always been with SIPES and the Children's and Education Minister.
Supplemental, Conor St John.
Yes, please, sir. Could the Minister update us on where the memorandum of understanding between his department and SIPES currently is in the provision of services on their behalf?
So there is a memorandum of understanding relating to the delivery of services within CAMS, and that exists.
Very well. Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. Given that Silkworth provides services for those affected by substance misuse and dependency, does the Minister agree that these issues are a health issue and therefore should sit under his remit?
Well, sir, the decision was taken before I came into office that to establish a children's ministry. I would guess that the deputy might have supported that. So this is to support children whose lives are affected by substance misuse, and clearly the Children's Ministry has that within its remit. There is an overlap with health, of course, but there's an overlap between many ministries. But this service clearly falls within SIPE's remit, and all discussions have been with SIPE's. And I'm sorry I've not been able to answer these questions in detail because I've never received a briefing and never expected a briefing. And I was never suggested that I would be briefed. It was always going to be a service provided and commissioned by SIPE's if agreement was reached. Thank you, sir.
Right. Supplemental question, Deputy Doublé.
Thank you, sir. And just on that, does the Minister agree that our actions relating to drug misuse and dependency should take a harm reduction model, which I believe is what Silkworth advocates?
I'm sure that's right, sir. A harm reduction model would seem the most sensible, though I'm not immediately aware of all of Silkworth's statements of purpose, for example. But if the deputy says that's within it, I can understand that.
Final supplementary, Senator Ferguson.
Thank you, sir. Will the Minister discuss, over coffee perhaps, the extremely competent service provided by Silkworth and suggest to the Minister of Education that he should actually visit the organisation himself and seek verification of the comments that have been made to him by his in-house staff? As Professor Reagan said, trust but verify.
Well, sir, I've said I would embark on a conversation with the Children's Minister, but I'm not going to do so with any preconceived ideas and telling him what to do, because he is clearly the lead on this.
Oh, for God's sake.
So I would wish to listen to what he has to say. I will speak to him of our relationship in HCS with Silkworth when delivering services for adults, and we'll see where that leads. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very well, that's the end of questions with notice. We come to questions without notice, and the First Minister asks questions of the Minister for External Relations. Does anyone have any questions for the Minister for External Relations? Deputy St Mary.
Thank you, sir. And I thank the Minister for his input into the news release over the weekend regarding permanent fishing licences. Could you please clarify whether, having granted the further applications to the French, the licences applied for by Jersey fishing vessels are guaranteed to be issued, as I note that the press release refers to these applications being determined under the terms of TCA rather than having been determined. Could you please clarify?
Thank you, sir. Perhaps I could apologise to members that I'm not in the Assembly. That's for family reasons. Sir, the Deputy is eagle-eyed as ever. The officials from the Marine Resources Department determined on Friday that there were another 5 vessels which had met the appropriate threshold for the Minister to issue licences. There were questions outstanding from the Commission in regards to the 7 Jersey licences that have been requested. Those questions have been answered and were done first thing on Friday morning, and the working assumption is that the Minister for the Environment will issue the 5 licences to French vessels at the same time that the EU issues the 7 licences to Jersey vessels, and that should be done quickly.
Supplementary question? Yes, Deputy.
Well, thank you for that reply, which ties in with his statement at the public hearing. My supplementary relates to the landing of catches by by Jersey vessels in French fishing ports. Again, the press release is silent on that matter. Could he confirm what the state of play is with regard to that aspect, please?
The Environment Minister and myself are very mindful that we run up to a period whereby access to markets is critically important, and my officials continue to communicate with their French officials in that regard. We have to be realistic and recognise that whilst a conclusion has been drawn to these conversations about licence issues, there may be some dissatisfaction still on the French side, and we say the same thing that we have said previously, that if there is dissatisfaction, the appropriate course of action is to use the mechanisms of the trade and cooperation agreement and not to take unilateral measures to stop access to the market. We continue to make that case, as we have done to the Commission as well.
Deputy Ayer.
Thank you, sir. Has the Minister prepared a response to a possible incursion by Russian forces into the Republic of Ukraine?
No, sir. It's a matter within the remit of the United Kingdom government.
Supplemental, Deputy Ayer.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister aware of any assets in Jersey being owned by members of the government of the Russian Federation? Thank you, sir.
So I'm not quite sure the detail of what the Deputy is asking. We have in place all the required international sanctions orders. Therefore, if there is anything inappropriate or falls within those sanctions orders, appropriate action will be and should already have been taken by those firms that are responsible for either administering or holding those assets on behalf of those people that are sanctioned. If the Deputy's got other more concerns, then perhaps he might wish to communicate with myself and my officials if I'm not quite understanding his question correctly.
Deputy Truscott.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I understand the Minister has just returned from the USA after flying the flag for Jersey and promoting Jersey finance and Jersey business generally. Could the Minister indicate if anything tangible business-wise came from that visit? Thank you, sir.
So the business flows from the USA in funds using Jersey structures during the course of this year have increased by 17%. That is good news. My visit was focused in Washington on taxation matters, as I've indicated, and in New York on promoting Jersey as a place through which to structure investment into Europe and to the further afield. I expect those positive numbers which have taken place during the course of this year to be enhanced, yes, in light of the visit, but during the course of next year as well, as the Assembly is asked to finalise the LLC products, therefore providing to the US market a product which they well understand.
No supplemental. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Returning to the fishing situation, could the Minister describe to the Assembly what efforts he and the Environment Minister are taking to deal with the disparity between the cost of licences to Jersey fishermen versus their French counterparts?
So I thank the Senator for that question, because there is some confusion about costs of licences. A cost of a local domestic licence is not very great, but a cost of a licence to fish in non-Jersey UK waters can be extremely excessive, and that is perhaps the crippling cost that some Jersey fishing vessels have to pay for. If French vessels wish to fish in non-Jersey UK waters, they of course have to make that payment as well. As I understand it, the Environment Minister is not yet charging French vessels for their licences, but he does have a plan to do so. I understand that that will come into force in the new year, and it will be a similar, if not equivalent, cost to what Jersey fishers pay for their Jersey licence.
Supplemental, Senator?
Thank you, sir. And I'm sure fishers will warmly receive that information. Sir, how does the Minister propose to progress the situation to ensure that Jersey fishers can land their catches in France in time for Christmas?
Well, so we are in, as I said, in answer to the Deputy of St Mary, in daily contact with our colleagues in France to ensure that markets remain open. Just as importantly, of course, is the medium-term opening of a border inspection post in Granville, and we continue those conversations as well. And we are expect to be able to move on from the closure of the conversations about license numbers to move on to nature and extent, and to move on to the conversations about the creation of that border inspection post. We will continually work with fishers and wholesalers to alleviate any issues around market access, and are hopeful that they will run smoothly between now and over the Christmas period.
Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. Senator Moore asked almost exactly the same question that I wanted to ask on this, but can I ask the Minister if, following the announcements that were made on this recently, whether he has full confidence that those Jersey fishing crews will face less disruption in future now when trying to land their catch in French ports, as some of them have found previously?
Well, of course, there are customs issues and access to market requirements post-Brexit, but there are also frictions that can be encountered at borders through the actions of individuals. One is much more straightforward to deal with, because we can deal with that through conversations with the UK, through conversations with the EU and our colleagues in France. Some of the individual actions are more difficult to deal with. We continue to support, as we have done throughout this crisis, on a virtual daily basis, to ensure where possible we alleviate those difficulties that fishers have experienced landing into Europe. Of course, there are some differences arising out of the Brexit decision, because we are now for goods considered to be a third country. That's about water classification, and I know that is a great concern of the Jersey fishers. That is about when and where those species that require to be depurified can be done so, and those are conversations that we will need to wrap up into the nature and extent and seek to have a more level playing field in that regard.
Supplemental question, Senator Ferguson. Senator Ferguson.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, sir. With all the talk of a global tax rate, will this actually kill off 010?
So the Senator, I'm sure, will have read the political consensus coming out of the OECD, which Jersey agreed to. The OECD Pillars 1 and Pillars 2 including the global corporate tax rate, deals with large multinational companies. We have said that we will implement the minimum standard. That's minimum standard in Pillar 1 and part of Pillar 2. As the Senator will know, the Irish government have decided not to change their 12.5%, but to have a additional regime of 15% for those relevant companies. We in Jersey have not yet decided exactly how we will respond, and if and how we would implement the minimum standards of Pillar 2 around the 15%. We continue to consult with industry, and we will make decisions in what we consider to be the best long-term interests of Jersey.
Supplemental question, Senator?
No, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. So the Minister spoke about his recent trip to the USA, where he clearly spoke a lot about financial matters. But I was wondering, obviously the Minister has his global market strategy as well. And so with the need for Jersey to diversify its economy, I was wondering if he could give the Assembly a sense of how much time on a trip such as the one to the USA he devotes to promoting Jersey's other industries, specifically export industries, such as digital, agriculture, or fisheries as well. And thank you, sir.
Thank you. I thank the Deputy for his question, sir. This trip was purposefully a financial service focused trip, which is quite unusual because of the global tax matters. It was really important to go to Washington and understand exactly what was happening there. And then, of course, in New York, the purpose was to promote Jersey to the fund sector. I can, however, assure that the Deputy that that's quite unusual for a trip of mine simply to be focused on financial services. But when it comes to the American market, we have during the term of this government divided up the responsibilities, and I focused on financial services matters, and the Chief Minister has focused on all of the other sectors of the economy and the cultural links, and the Chief Minister will be intending to make a visit stateside early in the new year to do just that.
Supplemental, Deputy?
Thank you, sir. Yes, essentially a similar question, but would he be able to give a greater sense to the Assembly in the kind of rough breakdown of his work when he is travelling overseas to various destinations, how much effort or how much time, what proportion of his time is spent on non-finance sectors of the economy?
That's quite difficult to do, of course, being also responsible for financial services. So the Deputy would expect me for that to be an important part of my remit. International development matters are rightly and expertly represented by the Deputy of Groove Vale. And I also, of course, pick up all of the other matters, and I find that interlocutors and those that I visit around the globe are just as interested, if not more so, in Jersey's history, culture, education, language, digital sector, as they are about financial services, and therefore my time is spent probably well divided across all of those sectors.
Very much. That brings the time available for questions to this Minister to an end. The next Minister to ask questions is the Minister for Health and Social Services, and Conectava St John.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the Minister mentioned in an earlier answer today that there is good capacity at the hospital. Can the Minister confirm what capacity we have at present for staffed adult beds? And is he aware of reports of ambulances having to wait up to 70 minutes at A&E due to lack of beds?
Minister.
Dealing with the last points first, sir, I don't believe that is the case of ambulances having to wait 70 minutes. We were concerned just last week that an ambulance had to wait less than 2 minutes, which was the first time that had happened that an ambulance had needed to wait. So again, I don't know where the Conectava is getting his information. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Conectava?
So the Minister didn't answer about the capacity in the hospital, but perhaps I can ask a different way. What capacity is there for any potential rise in COVID, especially Omicron admissions if required, and what contingencies are in place?
So there is good planning around the receipt of COVID patients. Areas can be designated as hot. At present, COVID patients are housed within Bartlett Ward. If Bartlett Ward was to be filled, there is another ward available to take COVID patients. Our ICU capacity is also available. So there is good planning around this.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. May I ask the Minister, are we testing for the Omicron variant on island, or does it have to be sent away? And therefore, is it present today And what is the time lag for identifying? I should have put that point first, so thank you.
No, so I understand the PCR tests we do on Ireland do not pick up the Omicron variant. Instead, it needs to be sent away to a UK lab for sequencing, and we are sending we are sending the results of tests principally from travel, but also a random selection of community tests for sequencing in the UK. And to date, no Omicron cases have been picked up, though I think it is inevitable that it will reach the island.
Supplemental, is that your
Yes, thank you. Given the concerns in the UK and elsewhere and the announcements today in the UK of this spread, can the Minister assure us that we will not face another lockdown at Christmas or soon after Christmas in New Year? The measures being taken are adequate to prevent that?
I don't believe we're in the position where we will face another lockdown, sir. The best protection we can give against any variant known to date is vaccination, and our population is substantially vaccinated, which makes the big difference with last Christmas. So we are urging all islanders, if eligible, to get themselves vaccinated. There's ample slots available at Fort Regent. That is the best protection that can be offered. But at the same time, to consider their actions, we have the ability for islanders to register to receive LFT tests, and when they are going out, to consider and possibly mixing to take an LFT test before they go out to ensure that they are not positive. Thank you, sir.
Conor Trinity.
Thank you, sir. Is the Minister able to confirm if it is a requirement that all specialist surgeons coming to work in Jersey need to be on the GMC's specialist register? Thank you, sir.
So I know that all medical professionals coming to work in Jersey need to be registered by the General Medical Council, but the Conatable asked about a specialist register, and I'm afraid I'm not completely au fait with the detail of General Medical Council requirements if there is a distinction between a specialist register and any other sort of register.
Supplemental question, Conor?
Yes, please, sir. I thank the Minister for his reply, but what I would ask is he able to comment more specifically on the employment of a Syrian vascular surgeon employed in 2021, and what pre-employment checks were conducted on him, and whether he was registered as a specialist with the GMC?
Well, I don't have the details of the particular case that the Conatable knows about, if the Conatable wished to give me those details at any time, but I can confirm that any medical practitioner from GPs onwards through and all hospital doctors do need to be registered with the General Medical Council. That is a requirement of our local law, and to be registered through the with the Jersey Care Commission, they need to prove a registration with the General Medical Council. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. And yeah.
Conor
Thank you, sir. Could I ask the Health Minister if he would give consideration to publishing by percentage breakdown the current admissions to the General Hospital? And there are two reasons for asking this question. Firstly, the recent Omicron variant has highlighted the need for people to be not just single and double vaccinated, but triple vaccinated. And secondly, the UK has just started publishing those statistics.
Thank you, sir. We do discuss this as ministers. The statistics team, the analytics team have some caution about possible identification of patients if detail was published, but I and other ministers have asked, and we will ask again, and if, as the Connotab suggests, the UK have recently started doing that, then I would like to, at least if we're not publishing the immediate current statistics, we could give some historical data, month by month perhaps, because it is the case that if you are unvaccinated, you are at far greater risk of being hospitalized as a result of COVID. And I would like that message to get through to islanders. The best thing to do to keep themselves and their friends, neighbours and loved ones safe is to be vaccinated. Thank you.
Supplemental, Connotab?
Yes, so thank you. Could I press the Minister on this point and ask him if he could highlight to his officers the importance of emphasising to people the importance of getting vaccinated in the current circumstances, and the publication of these statistics would, in my view, add immeasurably to that persuasive argument.
Yes, I will highlight. We'll have that discussion again.
Deputy Sutton.
Thank you, sir. Given the earlier answers from the Minister on the delivery of domiciliary care, can the Minister outline to members what powers he has to ensure that the highest standards of domiciliary care are maintained?
I, as Health and Social Services Minister, don't really have any powers in relation to domiciliary care because we don't provide that service. The powers lie with the Jersey Care Commission under statute law passed by this Assembly. They are the regulators. So I think that's as far as I can go with that question. Thank you, sir.
Supplemental, Deputy Sutton?
Yes, sir. And what sanctions, if any, does the Commission have in this particular sector?
Oh, I'd need to refer to the law in question. I imagine a license can be withdrawn by the Commission, and if it believes there has been offences committed, it would report to the appropriate authorities.
Could I just clarify that, seek clarification there with the appropriate authorities? Was that his ministry or some other place?
No, I am not the regulator, sir, or the HCS is not the regulator. I'm thinking it would be the Attorney General if the Commission believed that any offences had been committed.
Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Would the Health Minister advise the Assembly as to whether he believes Jersey should get its own radiotherapy unit? Thank you, sir.
I would like Jersey to have its own radiotherapy unit because that would avoid that traumatic trip to Southampton, often away from family, and I know that patients sometimes don't choose not to undertake that because of all that it involves. So if it's possible, I hope we can deliver that. But of course, we are a small population, and these centres are usually provided in larger centres of population. So we need to make sure we can deliver effectively a radiotherapy service and provision it and make sure that our patients get at least equal treatment to what they're presently receiving. So we're considering how we might do that, whether we might partner with a UK hospital, whether we might reach out to Guernsey, and how combined we might be able to support a service. And then, of course, there is the question of costs, because it will be expensive to provide, though that's not the determining factor. Thank you.
Supplemental question, David?
Yes, please, briefly. Thank you for the answer. Can the Minister confirm that then that review, in the lighter sense, is being undertaken, or that work is being undertaken by the department at the moment? And if so, will it be able to report before the state's debate on the matter in January? Thank you, sir.
So yes, I've asked for a full business case to be written up, but I understand, and there's a lot of work needed in investigating this thoroughly. That's going to report before March or by March of next year. I've already had conversations with Deputy Tadier before he lodged his proposition, which I welcome. I think his proposition sort of is an in principle type of proposition and tasks me to go away and do the work which is being done. But I will speak to Deputy Tadier again about exactly how we might proceed with his proposition. Thank you, sir.
Very much. Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Following the announcement just I think a few moments ago that from the UK's health minister that they have run out of lateral flow tests, could the minister inform the Assembly what the take-up is of lateral flow tests in the island and what whether he's content that we have sufficient stocks?
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of that announcement that the Senator's just referenced. We, I believe, have had an excellent take-up of the registration for lateral flow tests. I think within the community, we've had something like 33,000 people register. And in addition, there are approximately 10,000 school children taking the tests and a similar number of people registered through the workforce scheme. So we could be in the region of 50,000 people registered and taking tests. And that's really an excellent protection. And I'm very pleased with the take up there has been in the island. And I'd still continue to urge people who've not yet registered to do so. It's very easy to do so on the gov.ge website. And after you've taken 2 or 3 of these lateral flow tests, it becomes quite a routine and easy thing to do and just gives us that assurance that we're not carriers of COVID. I've been at the warehouse where we have an ample supply of these tests. We have no issues around provisioning supply. Thank you, sir.
Supplementary question. Deputy Dubé. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Deputy, I've called on you, and in fact, we've run out of time for questions for this minister, and I apologise for calling you in those circumstances. We now come to the final section of questions, which is questions for the Chief Minister, Senator Mezey.
Thank you, sir. Could the Chief Minister sum up the tangible actions proposed in P116, their population policy, which will have a clear and direct impact in managing population levels over the short term?
Chief Minister.
So I don't think I can do that in 90 seconds. So the short point is what we've said is that in relation to the population policy, it is around emphasising the importance of data. It is about the future movement, future direction of travel, and it's about emphasising, in summary, about doing the same with less. In this instance, it means with less people ultimately, but it's also recognising that that has to be done very carefully and very considerately, because otherwise there will be very unintended consequences.
Supplementary, please,
yes, Senator.
And could the Chief Minister therefore confirm that the adoption of P116 will have precisely no impact in the short term in managing Jersey's population levels? And would he further confirm that rather than it being a population policy, it is in fact a policy to create a population policy?
No, sir, I wouldn't be able to confirm that.
Very well. That's Deputy Pamplin.
Thank you, sir. I thank the Chief Minister for his response to my emails over the weekend. He can probably see where I'm going with my question, but does he not agree with me now that it needs to be more regular updates for the members of the public, considering the fast-moving pace of the Omicron variant in the United Kingdom? There is an information gap when the national news is carrying English responses by their prime ministers and leaders, and very little apart from social media posts. That the time has come to reintroduce to calm measures and get the truth and the facts of the situation to islanders on a more regular basis. Thank you.
Sir, as and when we have more updates, we also did put statements out, sir, as matters started to change in the last week or so. And sir, as STAC is meeting today, competent authorities can continue to meet on a weekly basis, and we'll be meeting tomorrow evening to consider matters. And so at that point, if there are any changes, we will absolutely keep reinforcing that message. What I will just say, sir, again, is to date, the message remains unchanged. That is very much about the importance of vaccination, about the importance of using lateral flow tests. We've heard the fantastic update we've got from the Minister of Housing, and also, sir, wearing masks where possible in indoor spaces where it's built to physical distance. So.
Supplementary question, Deputy Mayor?
No, thank you. We'll move on.
Thank you. Connie Tarbison, beg your pardon, Deputy Sutherland.
Thank you, sir. My reading of this report, this P proposal, is that we need more data. Really says that. And yet we've spent the last 7 years collecting data on it in the form of a names and address register, and we haven't completed a decent version yet. Is that not the case, that we're going to spend significant time researching more and more data to get nowhere?
Firstly, researching data is not the point. Getting nowhere is also not the point, sir. In my view, there will be nothing that will prevent implementation of some limited controls to come in, i.e. setting some principles. However, sir, there are a variety of matters that need to be put in place to enable to do that. The Assembly have obviously approved in principle, the legislation has to follow, sir, and you have to get that legislation in place to then start being able to implement. However, the data is critical. As we've said, a whole variety of areas, the data and IT systems that we have at present have been woeful. And that is what we are seeking to address. We will get some data as and when the census comes through, but obviously, sir, that's not the same as the database that the Deputy is referring to, and it does need to be resourced properly, and that is one of the proposals, sir, and indeed, where if the government plan is approved, some of the money is likely to go, sir.
Very well. Supplemental, Deputy Sutherland?
Thank you, sir.
Very well. Connie Tarbison, John.
Thank you, sir. Can the Chief Minister tell us if there are any plans to make the booster vaccination available in the community, and would he consider using parish halls for this?
Sir, as of right now, I've not been updated on any plans. What it is worth saying is obviously we took the school second jab basically for young people into the schools. And certainly, sir, if there was any indication that this would assist with significantly increasing take-up, I'd be very open to it. Obviously, as we know, there have been logistical issues in the past with the fact you've still got to keep the Pfizer vaccination very, very cold. We did seem to be able to overcome that in the schools. I would be open to anything that encourages people to get it early. But as I said, sir, to date, having the centralised system up at Port Regent has proved to be the most efficient method. I have asked those questions, sir, and I do expect an update at competent authorities tomorrow evening, sir, in terms of what we can do to speed up the delivery of the first jab, sir.
Supplemental question?
Thank you. Supplementary, sir. Is the Chief Minister satisfied that we have sufficient capacity at the General Hospital for potential Omicron patients? Thank you.
Sir, it's a question again I've put to the Director General for Health, and sir, I've been informed many times that the capacity in the hospital is absolutely fine relative to, I won't just focus on Omicron, on COVID, sir. And absolutely to date, I'm not aware of any changes to date. As I said, we'll get our next update tomorrow, but very much to date, every assurance has been given that the hospital is fully capable of coping with the numbers that they are having at the moment and they are presently projecting. I do emphasise again, so take the opportunity. That is why we've been encouraging members of the public as well to have a flu jab, which has been a very good successful take-up rate, because again, that is about reducing non-COVID impact and therefore again reducing the call on the hospital over the winter months.
Well, Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. Following the adoption of P86 by this Assembly on the 3rd of November, when does the Chief Minister plan to share the minutes of the competent authorities with us?
So I can't give a date yet. We had instructed officers to put the various packs together, and that I do know is in hand. I've seen them on people's desks. There has been a diversion of time, obviously, in dealing with the government plan, but I would hope we are trying to get them ready to get them to the scrutiny panels as quickly as we can, obviously respecting the arrangement that will need to be made for confidentialities.
Supplemental, Senator?
Could the Minister describe what exactly poses such a difficulty for the officers to have to spend such time producing these?
There is quite a degree of paperwork that comes with this, sir.
Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I had two questions and one of them's just gone. So can I ask the Chief Minister whether he believes there are enough venues on this island for live music in order to promote this island as a tourist venue, which I think is under the Chief Minister's remit because he does promote the island. Thank you, sir.
Chief Minister.
I'm trying to find a serious answer to this, and frankly, obviously, Deputy Ward has a lot of time on his hands if he's able to frequent the various venues that, as far as I'm aware, are still on the island for doing his, I guess, Michael Gove impression on the dance floor. So, but I don't think my remit for promoting the island extends to promoting its social venues and nightclubs. I think that's very much a question that should be sent towards the Deputy Chief Minister or the Minister for Economic Development, and who I'm sure would be delighted to do a tour of the various venues with the Deputy over the Christmas period to demonstrate the quality and width of the venues that we have. Of course, as the Deputy will know, sir, I have been promoting my singing abilities on Twitter more recently, or at least something else has been for me.
Thank you, sir. I'll be honest, I only heard half of that. It was like a Norman Collier appreciation call, that one. But I'm going back a few years. So I'd just like to ask Chief Minister, this is a serious question about the lack of venues on the island. And there is an industry on this island of live music and talented musicians that have not got the venues to play in and go to. And so as the Minister goes abroad and promotes Jersey as a venue, he should be promoting. Does he agree, sir, that he should be promoting this live music and the talent that is on this island? And to do that, sir, there needs to be more venues. And will the Minister please push his Council of Ministers and the appropriate Minister to look into this and address this issue? Thank you, sir.
Sir, I'm very happy to feed back the Deputy's remarks to the Minister of Economic Development. Thank you, sir.
Well, Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. I have been asked several times by members of the public why census figures haven't been released yet and why it takes so long. Would Chief Minister please explain in simple terms to the public why does it take so long?
Sir, the last update I had was that the statistics Jersey is trying to release the figures during the first quarter of next year. They are very, very focused on quality and the professional delivery of those figures. So they do a lot of validation. I think the volume of analysing those figures is obviously very intensive from a manpower point of view. And I do understand, so there have been one or two changes in personnel, which has hit, unfortunately, the capacity to do it quicker than what they're now planning. So in short, I believe it's been a combination of things, partially to do with changes in the personnel within the statistics department.
Supplementary?
Yes, indeed. Deputy
Thank you.
Supplementary.
While I accept the census remains unfinished, can we have just the total number of people residents in Jersey at the time of census, as I believe that number will be already known?
I think, sir, the deputy is equally. I'm equally as keen as the deputy, sir, to actually receive those numbers. And the deputy will also know from answers I've given in previous responses that whilst I can always ask and request, I cannot direct. Because obviously that would then threaten the independence of the statistics department, and on that basis, I can certainly forward the request into the chief statistician, but they are only obliged to produce it when they consider that figure to be sufficiently robust. Sir.
Very well, Deputy Morell.
Thank you, sir. Would the Chief Minister let the Assembly know whether he is satisfied that the island and the states of Jersey are getting value for money from the modernisation and digital programme, particularly with regard to the integrated technology solution? Thank you, sir.
So it's always tricky to identify value for money on this particular area. What I can say, sir, is that the work categorically needs to be done. And by that I mean, sir, I am more and more convinced of the risk that we as an organisation may have faced, and that could have been in 2 years' time, it could have been 4 years' time. Honestly, can't put a time period on that if we'd not made the investment that we are making, because of the word I've used a number of times, the woeful state of our systems. In terms of where we are at this present time, we are going through what's called a discovery phase, and that is basically having set the initial scope, is just effectively validating that scope. And I believe one of the issues presently happening is that as effectively a deeper dive is done on some of the systems, they are still finding more problems. That isn't whilst they're doing the work, I hasten to add, that's before that work commences. And that's why I've been quite careful about that. This is not an out of control project in any shape or form. It is one that is being very carefully prepped before they before those elements commence. As I understand matters, that's at a very high level and very simplistic level. It is work that needs to be done. There's no question about that. And we will see benefits from having a fit for purpose system going forward, and actually a far more robust system. And I would expect there to be benefits in terms of personnel or financial benefits, but those are as yet unquantified.
Well, that brings the time allocated for questions to the Chief Minister to an end, and the end of the business of the Assembly for this afternoon. Could I just mention to members that there is to be a statement from the Chief Minister at the beginning of the government plan. It has been erroneously listed under personal statements in the consolidated order paper. It should be listed as statements on a matter of official responsibility, and accordingly there will be a 15-minute question period following on from that statement, just so members. Senator, you're asking something in connection with future business?
Yes, sir. And I apologise if this is something that has already happened that I may have missed, but I think it might be helpful for members in advance of the government plan proposals being debated if some sort of comprehensive list or some sort could be provided showing which amendments the government has accepted and is intending to propose incorporated into the government plan, so that we don't spend time in our evenings preparing for debates that won't actually take place. And just as my part of helping in that, I've discussed with the Housing Minister and have told him that I'm happy for my first amendment on social housing rents to be proposed in the government plan as amended. So it would be helpful if there was some comprehensive list of that so we can use our time properly in preparing.
I think that's a point well made, Senator. The fact is that that's not for the State's Gref to do, that's for government, I think, to explain what it is accepting and what it isn't. And therefore, I'm sure that would be passed back overnight if it is possible to do so. There is a running order, an updated running order, which has been prepared by the GREF and will be disseminated and available to members, I think, first thing in the morning, if not this evening. There are some minor alterations still to be made to it, so I understand. But as I say, I'm sure your point will be taken on board if it is possible to do so. Chief Minister, you wish to respond to that?
Only briefly, firstly to thank Senator Meswick for constructively allowing us to propose the government plan as amended by his amended amendment. So thank you for that. Thank you, the Senator, for that. And secondly, sir, if your view is it is the government on the GREF to circulate, I'll arrange for that to be done hopefully this evening, sir.
And Deputy Ward, did you have a question?
So it was just about the updated running order, which you've answered. But can I say again, sir, if we're going to have this hybrid sitting with the debates, can we please ask members if they're remote to try and do something about their sound? Perhaps it is just me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to note from the chat, Deputy, I had some difficulty with the sound, which members more remote than the Assembly were able to hear perfectly clearly. I think there are just aberrations within the system, but it would be very, very helpful, I think, to the Assembly if members could check that they can be well heard before they participate in the debate. Health Minister, you're asking if you can answer a question on domiciliary care. I'm not sure that that's possible. Question times are over. I don't really know what it is you're.
It's just that I said I would try and come back to the Assembly, sir.
I'm sorry, that must be done outside of the parameters of question time. I'm afraid that's something that otherwise you'll appreciate there was a risk of a precedent there where people will come back and answer questions at all stages during the sitting, and that really can't work for us, I don't think. Very well. Other than the confirmation that everything's very clear in St. Juan, apparently, that concludes the business of the Assembly, and we will reconvene again at 9:30. That's a comment in the chat in case someone was wondering the reference. We will reconvene again at 9:30.